Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most rewarding FNAF fan games ever made. Whether it's because of their brutal challenges or the satisfaction of finally overcoming them, these games make every successful night feel like a genuine accomplishment. Some victories are so satisfying you'll remember them for years, so let's get into it.
Alright guys, the slander is ridiculous. I do not have a Coke can wiener, and I can prove it. I had a lovely fan redraw me. Boom. New art. How does it feel being wrong? You gonna cry? Yeah, you gonna piss your pants because I don't have a penis? Yeah, I was castrated. What are you gonna do about it? Anyways, Jaja, thank you so much for drawing these new poses. I think they look amazing, and I hope all of you get a kick out of them too, and I stop getting comments about my character Skags having an absolute sledgehammer penis. I just had to address that. Go follow her on Instagram, link in the description. Let's get to the video. If you've ever played any of the games from the Souls series, you'd know that a lot of the time the bosses, while being incredibly difficult, tend to be able to be broken down into pattern recognition, and once you understand a boss's pattern, beating them becomes much easier. The FNAF game I'll be talking about today feels the same way. Today, I'll be talking about Mary's Arcade, a FNAF fan game that, in its own creator's words, is, quote, a short, simple FNAF game that wasn't overly dependent on story, avoids using FNAF mechanics like doors and masks, and doesn't rely on randomness or luck, just complete skill, end quote. It was that final part about no randomness or luck that really grabbed my attention, since luck and RNG is the main reason I end up disliking FNAF games. 1020 mode in FNAF 2 is the prime example, but of course, fan games are guilty of this as well. I'm excited to dive into Mary's Arcade. I'm sure there will be no complaining from my end at all, and I'll be totally calm the entire time and will never go feral. Grab a snack and a drink, there's a lot I want to talk about. Mary's Arcade begins with us naming the Night Guard, something that I haven't seen other FNAF games do before. The only reason I'm mentioning it here is because the name shows up on the menu and on your paychecks. It's important for me to say that for these videos, I don't typically use my own footage. I usually borrow footage from full playthroughs and challenge runs from people like Toy Bonbon or Shooter. Rest assured, I do play the games I make videos about, I just use other people's footage for the review videos. Just had to get that out of the way. The gameplay loop of Mary's Arcade is honestly super refreshing and unique in comparison to other FNAF games. There are only 3 animatronics, but I promise you that's all this game needs in order to keep the game very difficult. And I promise you, when I tell you this game is hard, this game is really fucking hard. So here's how it works. In your camera system, you have 2 important buttons, your PA button and your buzzer button. I'll start with the buzzer button. When you press the buzzer, it will shock the camera you are currently looking at. If an animatronic is on that camera, they will be locked in place until the buzzer finishes, I don't know, buzzing? What do you want from me? Then afterwards, they will continue on their path. The PA button does something pretty cool. It's somewhat similar to the Balloon Boy call from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. If you use the PA call on a camera that an animatronic is about to go into, they will immediately go into that camera. You can't make animatronic go backwards through cameras, only forward. You might be asking yourself, in what way is that even useful? And the answer is honestly pretty cool. When an animatronic reaches your door, their eyes will light up, letting you know they're there. You will then have to open your camera quickly, select the camera on the opposite side of the office, and use the PA button to lure them through your office to the other side. Now that might lead you to have another question. If you just lure them to the other door, wouldn't they just attack you from that door? And the answer is no. I can't find a very good reason to justify why this makes sense, so we're not even gonna try. But out of the 2 animatronics that attack from your left and right doors, they have movement patterns similar to animatronics from other FNAF games. Mary, the pink wolf, or fox? I don't really know, I think she's a fox. Anyways, she'll move clockwise through the cameras, since the building is basically just a big circle. Rascal, the raccoon animatronic, will move counterclockwise around the building. They will never, under any circumstance, turn around and start moving in the opposite direction. They will only ever move forward through rooms. So when you pull one of them through your office, they will have to make a full rotation around the building before being able to attack you at your door again. Are you following along? Great, you get a medal, or a cookie, I hope you're allergic to cookies and you die. Rah, rah, rah. Now I need to mention the only part of this game that I think is a negative: cooldowns on your door lights. You'll notice that after using the buzzer or the PA button, that a bar will start filling up underneath the button. This is a cooldown for those buttons, and this prevents you from spamming them, which would obviously break the game and make it far too easy. Here's where the problem comes around. Mary and Rascal move at the speed of fucking sound, Sonic type shit, and on later nights when they're both active, the cooldowns become a huge problem. Because once you use the PA button on one of them, the other will reach your office well before your PA cools down. So, what's the remedy for this? Your door lights. In addition to using the buzzer to stall animatronics in place, using your door light when an animatronic is in the doorway will also stall their movement. I will note that the lights are meant to give you an extra 5 to 10 seconds for your PA to cool down, and not meant for you to halt an animatronic when your PA is basically empty. While an animatronic is at your door, they still have a timer for when they'll move into your room, whether you're flashing them or not. And if you're flashing them when that timer runs down, the lights to the building will flicker out and you'll lose the night. If you're easily frustrated, this game is probably not for you. On night 1, only Mary is active. With one animatronic, this game is a cakewalk. But this night is really just meant to give you an understanding of how the mechanics work, and it's also where we're told that the night will pass along faster if the cameras are not up. This gives us an incentive to not be looking at the cameras, but as you'll soon find out, looking at the cameras all the time is going to be the most valuable asset in this game. Night 2 is where Rascal becomes active, and the game actually starts to become a challenge. Still, this night is really easing you into dealing with 2 animatronics at one time, so beating it is fairly easy. On this night, there's a large emphasis placed on your buzzer, because it becomes incredibly important with 2 active animatronics. Night 3 is where this game really amps up in difficulty. You'll notice that Rascal moves much faster than Mary does, which can pose a small problem when it comes to balancing their locations, but be ready because it only goes from 10 to 100 after this night. But before this night ends, you get to see one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed in a FNAF game.
Power supply low. Powering down.
Was that not the fucking coolest shit you've ever seen in your life? A scripted cutscene that makes you think you lost? It's so cool. And I think the only reason why it left so many people, including myself, as shocked as it did, was because it completely breaks the Five Nights at Freddy's norms. I'm sure everyone who's played FNAF has had a moment where the clock strikes 6 a.m. in the middle of a jump scare animation. It's a rare occurrence, yet it somehow still happens to most of us. And this game takes that concept and creates its own cutscene out of it. It was this moment while playing this game that made me decide I needed to make a video about it. But now we move on to Night 4, aka Poop City. Night 4 introduces the final animatronic, Scarlet the Deer, or a doe. Fawn? I don't know, it's a deer. Scarlet does something totally different from the other 2 animatronics. She is not affected by your PA system or your buzzer, meaning she'll truck right through the building however and whenever she pleases. How do you stop her? Remember when I said that not looking at the cameras makes the night go faster? Yeah? In order to stop Scarlet, you have to stare her ass down on the cameras. Life's great, dude. It's awesome, honestly. Scarlet begins on the stage like all the other animatronics do, and she'll follow either Mary or Rascal's path. She'll continue in that direction until she reaches your office, where she'll then attack from the door in the middle of the room, which means you can't use your door lights to stall her either. So instead, you must find her on the cameras and stare at her. Once you do this for long enough, which takes around 3 seconds, but trust me, feels like way longer, especially when some fucker is at your door. But once you look at her for long enough, she'll move backwards 1 camera, and then you can switch to that camera and continue to push her back until she is at the top of the map. Note, you can't make her go back on stage, so the camera right next to it is as safe as you're gonna get. Keeping Scarlet away doesn't get too stressful until you have Mary or Rascal sitting at your door, and you have to stop flashing them to pull your camera up to keep her away. But now, we get to touch on Night 5. And if Night 4 was Poop City, Night 5 is Poop Universe. Oh my god, Night 5. It's very important that I answer a specific question now. The Game Jolt page for Mary's Arcade states that this game does not use RNG and is pure skill. Is that statement true? The answer is yes, but I promise you, when Night 5 comes around, it will feel like complete RNG. But it's not, okay? It's not, I promise. This game is not so much a horror game as it is a puzzle game. Literally everything that takes place during the nights are scripted. That includes where animatronics start, when they move, and where they move. Speaking of where they start, on Night 5, Mary starts about 3 cameras away from your door, and Rascal starts about 2 cameras away from your door, while Scarlet is on stage. Immediately, right out of the gate, you're at an enormous disadvantage. If you do nothing within the first 10 seconds, Rascal will already be at your door. So you might think to just send him through, but almost directly after, Mary will be at your door, and uh-oh, you just used your PA. Guess it's time to kill myself. So then you think, okay, here's the strat. The moment the night starts, I'm gonna buzz Rascal and let Mary hit my door. I'll send her through and then stall Rascal with the light, which should give me just enough time to send him through before the lights go out. But uh-oh, fucker, you forgot about Scarlet, and now she's in your asshole. Okay, same strategy, except this time, after sending Mary through, we find Scarlet and send her back to the starting position, but oh shit! Rascal's at the door, so opening my cameras to move Scarlet now becomes super risky, and I'm fucked in the butthole again. Night 5 of Mary's Arcade is the bane of my existence, the piss in my pants, and the shit in my britches. It took me over 2 hours of attempts to figure out the pattern of this night's puzzle. Again, everything is the exact same every night, literally no RNG in the timings, so I started to develop a strategy. I needed to figure out exactly how Scarlet worked, and I'm pretty damn sure that I have. So, the night begins and Scarlet is in her start location. On Night 5, she will start by going left, the same side that Rascal goes. I know that my timing needs to be tight and precise, so my plan is to buzz Rascal on start immediately, let Mary through, and stall Rascal at the door with the light until my PA system is ready to then let him through. Since I have to be in the bottom right corner camera to let Rascal through, I need to make sure that Scarlet will be there, so that the moment I open the camera to let Rascal through, I will retroactively immediately push Scarlet away from my door. But we just established that she's going left, so what do? Well, if you push Scarlet to the main starting room, she will begin to attack the opposite side. So in Night 5, she begins by going counterclockwise. So, if before Rascal reaches my door, but after I let Mary through, I push Scarlet back to the main room, she will then begin to move clockwise. This gives me time to stall Rascal while she moves. However, while stalling Rascal, I will have to make one risky move. If I leave her totally unanswered, she will kill me before my PA system refills, so I have to push her back at some point. Now, one might think if you push her back, she'll start going in the wrong direction, and we've already established that I want her to be in the bottom right corner camera by the time I send Rascal through. But something I found out about Scarlet: you can push her back as much as you want, but she won't switch directions unless you push her back to the main room. Meaning that, if I sit on the bottom right corner camera in preparation for luring Rascal, I can temporarily stop flashing him with the light to pull up the camera and push Scarlet back into the kitchen camera and quickly go back to flashing Rascal. This will give my PA system just enough time to refill before Rascal's door timer runs out, allowing me to push Rascal through, and then push Scarlet back to the main room. You might be thinking now, wow, that took way more thinking than any game I've ever played in my entire life. But then you look at the time and realize that it's only 1 a.m. I have to figure out timings like that for the next 5 in-game hours. This right here is why this game took me so fucking long to beat. This scripted bullshit makes me want to get mauled by a bear. I would honestly rather have RNG because this just isn't fun. It doesn't feel like skill because each night is identical. At least with FNAF 2 10/20 mode, I know that I just got unlucky with Toy Bonnie and that next time I could just get lucky and win, but not with Mary's Arcade. Mary's Arcade is nothing but trial and error, spending 30 minutes figuring out a pattern, die, spend another 10 minutes solving the new problem, die, do it again and again and again until you realize that fucking 2 hours have passed and you've only solved up to 4 a.m. with a goddamn night. And then I get the displeasure of talking about 5 a.m. Oh, 5 a.m. You big, stinky, fat, smelly, sweaty, sticky, ugly, stupid, dumb, idiotic, brain-dead, moronic bitch. Right at the finale of 5 a.m., all of the cameras go completely out. You can't look at them. You're no longer able to see anything on the cameras, and it really comes down to you versus Scarlet. Scarlet, if unanswered, will make it to your office before you hit 6 a.m. every time without fail. But how exactly are you supposed to stop her if you can't see the cameras, you ask? I have no fucking idea. It was ironically sheer luck that I didn't die to her on my final run. My idea was that even though I couldn't see her, she was still there, meaning that if I knew where she was before the cameras went out, I could still land on the camera she was just on, wait for the camera to flicker letting me know I pushed her back, then continue to push her back to the main room and just camp that camera and wait to win, since Mary and Rascal showing up during the game's final desperation to keep me here was very, very uncommon. But there would be runs where I would do this and still miraculously die to Scarlet. I have no fucking idea where she was. I had no strategy, no puzzle to solve, no clues to go off of. Have you ever tried to put together a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle without looking at it? Play Mary's Arcade Night 5, 5 a.m. After a few attempts of giving it a try, you'd be unzipping your pants and pulling your wiener out at the thought of attempting the jigsaw puzzle. I'm dead ass serious. I do not know how I beat this night. I could not replicate what I did. I watched multiple other people beat this night, and I didn't pick up on any patterns. I literally have no conceivable idea what I was expected to do at this point. I really hope someone in the comments could tell me what the intended route was, because I'm honestly so fucking confused. But after beating Night 5, the game is done. And so is this video. Psych, you fucking idiot. There's a challenge night. Nightmare mode. Fuck. I didn't beat it. No, I didn't even put in an attempt. The moment I saw Nightmare mode on my title screen, I uninstalled the fucking game. I could not even begin to handle the mental anguish that would fall upon me as a consequence of trying that. No thank you, I'm good. But lucky for us, there is a custom night that introduces some new characters. Kipper, Dipper, and Martin. Kipper and Dipper are canonically Mary and Rascal's kids. Their mechanic is really easy. When you see them in your doorway, flip up your camera and flip it back down. That's it. Since they look like Mary and Rascal, I think the goal was to get you to think they were Mary and Rascal and cause you to turn the lights on, killing you. But it really isn't that hard to tell the difference. Martin is also very easy. Martin will spawn on any camera at random. All you have to do is find him and stare him down until he temporarily goes away. Easy. There's also these little random puppets that show up in front of your face, and you'll have to boop their noses to make them go away. I don't really understand the point of them, but I guess I'll go with it. Props to Frogger and Shooter for actually beating this shit show of a custom night. I'm well aware others have beaten it, but Frogger was the first victor, and I just like watching Shooter's content. So congrats, guys. I don't know why you did this to yourself. I'm sure that the anguish and the pain of doing this will surely be retroactively laid off on your future wife and children.
What is really the hardest Five Nights at Freddy's game of all time? Hopeless Pursuit? One Night at Frogger's? Who really knows for sure? But I think when people think of that question, they tend to think strictly about max modes, which I think is a little disingenuous. I think there's a big difference between the hardest FNAF game and the hardest max mode. For example, I think FNAF 1 is much harder than FNAF 4, but FNAF 4's max mode is undoubtedly harder than FNAF 1's max mode. So saying FNAF 4 is harder than FNAF 1 just doesn't really make sense. And when you look at challenging FNAF games in that way, which is the most challenging all the way through? I think we all know the one single FNAF game that comes to mind. It needs no introduction, and I've been getting asked to play it for over a year at this point. That game is Post Shift 2 pre-patch version 1.0.0. I never wanted to make this video, yet here I am. This is by far the longest, most painful video I have ever made. So shut up, relax, as we jump right in to Post Shift 2. Before we even start talking about Night 1, there's something I need to get out of the way. I'm sure everybody already knows, but this game is literally massive. So big, in fact, that the developer had to export the game in 2 separate files since the entire thing couldn't be exported in one. Another thing I want to get out of the way really early is that I'm going to be very negative in this video. What else is new, right? But I do want to make it clear before I even say anything is that just because I say mean things about this game doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. People call it the hardest FNAF game ever made, even knowing that there are a whole lot more that are more difficult. This game earned that title for a reason, and it's not because it's a bad game. It was made by one guy over the span of 3 years. That is impressive, and this game is impressive. All right, now that I got that out of the way, and we know Reddit is going to ignore it when they bitch and moan about me not stroking the dick of every game I cover, we can actually start talking about the game the way I would any other game. Let's just start off by talking about the sheer size of the map in this game. The first 3 nights take place in an area of the game called Aisle 1. Apparently, just staying in the office with our feet nailed to the floor was just too easy, so now we have to walk around the whole fucking building as slowly as possible. I'll get to that in a second. Let's go over the room that we'll actually be starting in first. It's called the souvenirs area, and it's completely worthless as pretty much nothing happens here. However, it is in this room where we're greeted to hands down the most terrifying thing in this entire game. This massive fucking text box. This text box right here is how the game explains its mechanics to you. No phone call, no figuring it out for yourself, just dropping a goddamn novel on you and expecting you to read the whole thing. You might think to yourself, you know, I play a lot of FNAF games. I'm sure I don't actually need to read this. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. No, the fuck you won't. This is hands down the most confusing game I've ever played in my entire life. I'm both excited to talk about it and not excited to talk about it because, oh my god, I want to complain, but my poor little fingers are going to kill me since I'm going to be writing this entire video in one sitting, and I quite literally type out every single word that I read in these videos. The only place you can go from this room is the aisle end. Hands down, the most important room throughout this game. This is because it connects directly to 2 other incredibly important rooms, the sanitation room and the construction room. The sanitation room is to the left and the construction room is to the right. It's about right now where I want to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to talking about moving in this game. That being long as fuck, shit ass, fuck ass animations that play whenever you want to go anywhere. It's almost like every time the player moves, an earthquake that levels a 5 on the Richter scale goes off, causing our player to shake and jolt their head in every possible direction, making me so motion sick I was unable to beat this game myself without throwing up. And no, I'm not joking. This is quite literally the reason I avoided this game for so long, and yes, I seriously didn't beat it because I was getting so sick from these animations. And the best part? These animations take so long to play out, and the map is large so that a majority of the time when you need to respond to something quickly on the other side of the map, it'll take a solid 30 seconds to do that, making your blood pressure go through the roof every single time. To get to the sanitation room, like I said, you have to go left from the aisle end. However, you don't just have to sit through one movement animation, you actually have to sit through 2, because the first room you enter is a filler room and is literally completely fucking useless. Guys, I'm already mad, and we've only just begun. And of course, once you actually get to the sanitation room, you're hit with another text box the size of your mom's ass. Now, getting to the construction room, I'll tell you, is actually pretty funny. Once again, like I've already said, all you have to do is turn right from the aisle end, and this time you don't have to go through a useless room. Once you get to the construction room, you have the option of going into a back room area of the construction room. However, it's useless. So useless, in fact, that the game actually tells you that you should never go there because there's quite literally no point. So like, why the fuck did you even add it, bro? What were you thinking? thinking. But even then, we're still not done talking about the map. I'm almost done with the 3rd page of this script, and I haven't even finished talking about the places we can go yet. I get the sneaking suspicion this is going to be a really long one, guys. Buckle up. Going back to the aisle end, we can turn around to enter the temporary aisle. From there, we can move forward into another section of the temporary aisle. And this section, and only this section of the temporary aisle, can we look in between some shelves to see if there are any animatronics getting ready to finger my butt. But I'm going to talk about those characters a bit later. We still have a lot more to talk about first. From there, we can move forward into the promotional area. And finally, from this area, we can turn left and check if any characters are holding the lube in their hands, looking at me up and down and licking their lips and shit. With the building being out of the way now, we have to bring up something very important. That being, how do we actually complete this night? Because unlike most FNAF games, this game decided to be a little bit different in quite literally the worst way possible. In order to complete a night in Post Shift 2, you actually have to do 2 things. The first is pretty simple, just survive until 6 a.m. However, the next thing you have to do really makes that first task seem pretty pointless. You have to complete 3 different tasks around the building using something you have called a halfless repair drone. And this drone is controlled by our employee maintenance monitor, or EMM, as I will be referring to it from now on. Now, we need to just take a second to relax. Guys, if you're not ready for some old school, classic Dexter White complaining, I highly suggest you come back to this video a bit later, because that's going to be what approximately the remaining of this video is going to be. The requirement of using your EMM to complete tasks brings up hands down the biggest problem this game has to offer. It tells you literally fucking nothing. Do you want to know how to open the EMM? Well, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is hover over and click the left corner of your screen. Dexter, is that the top or bottom corner? Would you believe me if I told you the game didn't tell you? And better yet, would you believe me if I told you that quite literally the only time it tells you how to open the EMM is in the first room of the game in 1 sentence in a giant paragraph of text, and literally never again? Would you believe me if I said that? Well, you should, because that's literally what happens. How in the name of fuck did the developer think that this was a good way to explain this to the player? Once you leave this room for the first time, this guide will never appear again. So if you either don't read that sentence or forget what it said, you're just not even going to know what the EMM is. This is insanity. But maybe I'm nitpicking, even though I know I'm not. Let's continue. Just kidding. I'm still not done complaining yet. Do you want to know something even worse than what I just told you? After you manage to open up the EMM, the game doesn't tell you that the repair drones are important. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't make it obvious. The only place this game tells you that the drone is important is after you click the drone repair button. Then, once in the repair drone menu, if you look at the text box on the side, only in the 3rd paragraph does it tell you that this drone is required to complete the night. Actually, what the fuck is going on right now? Someone tell me I'm not over exaggerating. This is terrible. You people wanted me to play this. Why? However, at least the drone tasks we have to complete are super easy. The length of the nights in this game are 6 minutes and 30 seconds, so not that bad at all. A lot better than what I was actually expecting. All 3 drone tasks you have to complete are the same and really don't require you to do anything at all. All you have to do is open the EMM, go to the repair drone, view, and then start repairing. The repair process will take place in the background while you do whatever else it is you need to do. Each task takes 1 minute and 15 seconds to complete, and once it's done, you can go back into the menu and start the next task. After doing all 3 and surviving until 6 a.m., we can move on to night 2. But wait, haven't you forgotten? We're playing a FNAF game, and I still have yet to mention a single animatronic, even though we're over 10 minutes into this video. Is that not crazy? We're this far in, and I haven't even said a character's name yet. Well, no better time than the present, that is what they say. This night introduces 3 main threats, the first being Revenant Freddy. He's probably the easiest of the 3 characters that are introduced on this night. To start, he will appear in the promotional room leaning up against a shelf. When he's here, we really don't have to worry, as the game tells us that this just means he's getting ready to attack us. When he enters this phase, one of 2 random sound cues will play, and they sound like this. Now we get to talk about how stupid the rest of the way Revenant Freddy attacks really is. Once Revenant Freddy decides to attack us, he will move to the other part of the promotional room. That part being that direction I told you that you can turn in a bit earlier. Once Revenant Freddy is here, that means he's about to kill you. However, for some reason, he plays no sound cue when moving into this position. You know, the position he gets into that actually matters. Yeah, you just have to figure that part out by yourself. Sound cue for something retarded? Yes, please. Sound cue for something important? Nah. Now we get to talk about something else that is incredibly frustrating. That being how to deal with him. The way to do it is simple. Just go to the aisle end, open the EMM, select a drone. No, not the repair drone. This is a different drone. And then target Revenant Freddy and send it off. The actual problem with this is a common recurring theme this game has. Literally never telling us fucking anything at all. In order to learn that this is what we need to do, we need to open the EMM and then click on the drone to read 3 paragraphs. And that's not the end of it. In these 3 paragraphs, where exactly it explains Revenant Freddy is probably a total of 1 to 2 sentences long. What the fuck? Like I already said, Revenant Freddy is the easiest character on this night. We still have 2 more to talk about, and I promise you, both of them are no less confusing. The next character to mention is Minotaur Freddy. What does Minotaur mean? Well, it stands for Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors. Damn. So tell me, Dexter, what does Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy do? I'm so glad you asked. Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy can attack you in 2 different places, in both the sanitation room and the construction room. Let's talk about the construction room attack first. Once Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy arrives there, this sound cue will play. Once that sound cue plays, we need to drop everything we're doing and go to the construction area just so that we can watch Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy climb out of a hole in the floor. Once Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy climbs out of the hole, a 15-second timer will appear on the screen telling us to go to the promotional area. If you don't get to the promotional area by the time that timer runs out, Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy is going to butt bang us, and we just don't want that at all. Once we get to the promotional room in time, we will survive the attack for some reason. I don't really know why this makes us survive, but it does. Cool. Now, what about the other attack that Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy can do? Once again, this attack happens in the sanitation room. Once he appears in this room, another sound cue will play letting us know he's arrived that sounds like this. Now, this attack is where it gets confusing. By the way, if you couldn't tell, both of the sound cues he plays sound exactly the same. They are slightly different, but I highly doubt you'd be able to tell them apart. Here, let's actually play a game. Now that I've shown you both of the sound cues, let's play one of them and you tell me which one it was. All right, did you make your guess as to which room that would mean Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy went to? Well, if you said the construction room, you'd be completely fucking wrong, because that's the sound cue he plays when he goes to the sanitation room. Anyways, once he's in the sanitation room and you get there, depending on how fast you got there will change the way this attack will play out. If you got there super quickly after the sound cue went off, when you open this vent, he'll look like he always does. Show up a little later, and for some reason, he'll have a rabbit ear. Why? I really don't fucking know. And if we wait a really long time before opening the vent, he'll look like another character we'll mention later, Revenant Bonnie. Why does he literally transform into another character? I actually have no idea. It makes no sense at all, but let's just deal with it. After seeing which version of Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy we got, we'll have to open up the EMM and answer 4 questions. These questions being, does your Minotaur have a rabbit ear yet? Does it reside within the cleaning area currently? Does it almost look like a completely different character? And would you like us to revert the Minotaur's form? Obviously, depending on which version of Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy that appeared, we will have to answer these questions differently. But if we answer them all correctly, then Micro-Implemented Neural Activated Transferable Energy Rotors Freddy will leave and we'll be safe to continue doing what we were doing. And by the way, don't worry, I'll stop saying the full acronym now. I'll just be calling him Minotaur Freddy from now on. Now we get to talk about the final and most annoying threat this night introduces, Minotaur Foxy. Holy shit, this guy actually sucks so bad it's hard to breathe just thinking about him. Minotaur Foxy, like Minotaur Freddy, can attack from two different places. He can either go to the promotional area or can go to that special place in the shelves we can look through in the temporary aisle. In both locations, you have to deal with him in the same way. It's just finding him that's the problem. Speaking of, once he spawns, he'll play this sound cue. Once we find Minotaur Foxy, all we have to do is open up the EMM and select Voice Constructor. From here, we will be given a sentence output. We will have to reconstruct this given sentence using the 12 buttons in the middle of the screen. The sentence we have to reconstruct will be different every attack, and this game insists on making this as difficult as possible. For example, a common phrase you'll see is "to please." However, the button you need to press uses the number 2, while the sentence will always read TWO spelled out. It's confusing for the sake of being confusing, and I fucking hate that. Also, I'm sure it's obvious, but none of the ways we defend ourselves from characters in this game make any sense at all. I'm not going to waste your guys' time by talking about how they don't make sense every time we bring up a character, but just know I do think they're all stupid. Also, just one more thing I want to complain about before we move on. This game tells you that the stupid shelf place exists and that Minotaur Foxy can appear there literally in one sentence in the middle of a text box in the tutorial. This is by far the biggest problem this game has. I know I've said it a lot, but it just doesn't fucking tell you anything at all. One more thing I have to mention before we move on are the bonus objectives in this game, because of course this game has those. 2 of the bonus objectives on this night are quite literally impossible to miss as long as the night is completed. Those tasks being survive Revenant Freddy twice and survive Minotaur Foxy once. And that will always happen on the first night, so you don't even have to think about it. The only other 2 tasks on this night can be failed, however, it's pretty unlikely that you will. The first requires us to beat the night optimally, and there's actually something in the night that tells you how optimal the night has been so far. And the way you keep it optimal is just by doing the drone tasks as fast as possible. The only other objective on this night is completing the night at 6 a.m. with less than 10 excess seconds. This is referring to the fact that after you reach 6 a.m., the night won't end until you finish your tasks. Once you reach 6 a.m., the game will start an excess seconds timer. So as long as you complete all 3 of the drone tasks before 6 a.m. happens, then you'll complete this objective, which, considering the tasks only take 1 minute and 15 seconds and the night is 6 minutes and 30 seconds long, this really shouldn't be a problem. Alright, with all of that out of the way, it's finally time to move on to night 2. Holy shit. We're just over halfway through the length of a normal Dexter White video, and we're only on to night 2. Editor, I'm so sorry. Night 2 is completed in the exact same way as night 1. Finish all 3 repair drone tasks and survive until 6 a.m. However, for some reason, night 2 is 7 minutes long instead of 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Why is this the case? I have no idea. But don't let yourself get fooled into thinking this night is going to be as easy as night 1, because it's not at all. Because the AI ramping of these characters is actually ridiculous. And on top of that, we actually get 2 more characters thrown on us as well. The first threat introduced on this night is Minotaur Baby, and she is probably the easiest out of all the animatronics we've seen so far. Occasionally throughout the night, you will hear this sound cue. This tells us that Minotaur Baby has appeared in the souvenirs area. Yeah, I kind of lied before when I said this room was useless. Minotaur Baby is actually the only reason it isn't useless. Something about Minotaur Baby is that she is way more forgiving than every other character in this game. Once you hear her sound cue play, you have a good 40 seconds before she actually kills you, giving you plenty of time to check for all other characters before going over to deal with her. The way we deal with her also isn't too hard. Once we see her standing in the corner, all we have to do is open up the EMM and go to the Emotion State tab. Once in this tab, we will press the Run Memories button, and then we can start cycling through Baby's memories. Once we find one that is happy and not depressing, we will have to lock that memory, and that will make Minotaur Baby go away. But of course, this game has to follow the pattern of not teaching us a fucking thing, as this game neglects to tell us which of her 10 possible memories are positive. Spoiler alert, only 3 of them are, and this is what they look like. What about these images scream positive? I have no fucking idea, but but you're just meant to figure it out as, once again, the game literally doesn't tell you ever. All it does say is that some memories have the possibility of being positive. So it seems that even the dev doesn't know why these would be positive. The only other threat introduced on this night is Revenant Bonnie. Not the weird version of Miniature Freddy we saw earlier, I mean just actually Revenant Bonnie this time. The way you know he's about to attack you is very simple, as not only does a really fucking loud sound cue play, but also a counter will appear in the top corner of the screen. Revenant Bonnie wants to play a game called One-Eyed Seek, which is this game's version of a find them on the camera mechanic, because even though there are no cameras in this game, it somehow still finds a way to make the worst fucking thing in the entire world. Once Revenant Bonnie starts his attack, the counter will randomize a number between 1 and 5. This is how many times you'll need to find Bonnie. So if you get lucky, you may only have to do it once, but if you're me, you'll have to do it 5 times every fucking time. Revenant Bonnie can spawn in 5 different areas at random: the souvenir room, the construction room, the hallway before the sanitation room, the second part of the temporary aisle, and then behind the shelf in the temporary aisle. There's no way for you to know which areas he goes to. You literally just have to guess, which, with how long the movement animations take in this game, I can promise you that Revenant Bonnie will quickly become your least favorite character. There's a reason I chose to put him in the thumbnail over anybody else. I fucking hate him. There is only literally one redeeming quality about Revenant Bonnie, and that's during an attack, he will not appear in the same area twice. Everything else about him is still RNG, and that sucks ass. I should also mention that he can be skipped by using a drone, just like Revenant Freddy. However, this drone has an incredibly small chance of actually working. So I mean, I guess do it while you're passing through looking for him, but you probably won't ever see it work. So let's go over all of the RNG that Revenant Bonnie has. Once he spawns, it's random how many times you'll have to find him. From there, it's random where he'll spawn and when he'll spawn there, so you could have him spawn on opposite sides of the map every single time. And on top of that, the item we can use to skip his attack is also completely random. This is amazing, guys. What a skill-based FNAF game. This is definitely a hard game and not just total RNG. And of course, now we get to start talking about the bonus objectives. The first one to get requires even more RNG, that being luring Revenant Bonnie away with the drone, which I just mentioned is incredibly rare to ever happen. So that's just awesome. The next bonus objective is finding both Revenant Freddy and Miniature Foxy in the promotional area. This is also RNG, since the Miniature Foxy only has a 50% chance to appear in the aisle shelf area instead of the promotional area. So yippee, we're gonna be here for the rest of our lives. The last 2 bonus objectives just require us to play like complete dog shit. The first has us complete the night with a lacking efficiency level, meaning that we just need to do the repair tasks really fucking slowly, and the second task being beating the night after we reach 6 a.m. So just let the clock reach 6 a.m. and then finish your last drone task. So these 2 objectives will probably be completed at the same time. Anyways, let's move on to night 3, shall we? The way we beat this night is exactly the same as night 2, so I won't touch on that. But there are another 2 characters added on this night, bringing the total up to 7. Fucking awesome. Love it. The actual threats introduced on this night are Remnant Chica and Remnant Foxy. And before we actually talk about them, I want to bring up something that confused me. For some reason, both Freddy and Bonnie have the name Revenant, while Chica and Foxy use the word Remnant. Why is there this change in their names? I don't have any idea, and from what I read on the wiki, it's not explicitly explained, so we're just gonna ignore it, and if I misspeak for the rest of the video and don't notice, I just don't give a fuck. But if you guys want to have fun, take a shot every time I mess it up. So let's talk about Remnant Chica first, since she's by far the easiest, but that doesn't exactly mean she's easy. And for those of you who have played this game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Remnant Chica spawns in the construction room, but in the back area of it. Yeah, you know, that area of the construction room that the game itself told us we should never go to because it's useless. Usually I'm the one lying in these videos, but for some reason the game is the one doing the lying this time. Regardless, when Chica spawns, she will make this sound cue.
Lighting alteration detected at construction area.
Once we hear this sound cue, all we have to do is go to that corner of the construction room and stare at the hole in the floor until we see a yellow flash, which, yes, by the way, of course it's random how long this will take. Then after we see it, all we have to do is run back to the aisle end and launch a drone to distract her. So she is basically just Revenant Freddy in a different area. The only reason she's more frustrating than Revenant Freddy is because of where she's located. It takes so fucking long to get over there and so fucking long to get back that if literally any other character character spawns while you're dealing with her, you are pretty much guaranteed to lose. The only other threat introduced on this night is of course Remnant Foxy, who, would you believe me, also uses that funny little area in the construction room that the game told us itself was fucking useless. Isn't that just revolutionary? I'm gonna make a FNAF game where the phone guy just fucking lies about how to deal with characters. I can just see it now. Five Nights with Dexter, where we have a phone guy tell us to close the door on a character, but what we actually have to do is cup our hands below our bare ass, squat down and take a shit in them, then play patty cake with the animatronic at our door. Except we're not gonna tell the player that's what we actually have to do, and we're just gonna hope that they figure out there's a poop patty cake button that's invisible in the corner of the screen until you hover over it with your mouse. God damn it, I hate this fucking game! Anyways, when Remnant Foxy spawns, he'll play this sound cue. When he does, he'll appear in the hole where Remnant Chica appears. You'll have to go over to him and look at him, then just like Remnant Chica, go deploy a drone for him. However, Remnant Foxy also has another possible way to attack us, and that's by crip walking up to us like some of the pedophiles you see on To Catch a Predator. Seriously, look at this predacious walk he has, and tell me he's not using that hook to reel in some kid's ass on the down low. Anyways, once he does walk up to us, we'll have to open up our light module. This is not inside of our EMM. Instead, it's actually another invisible button that the game basically doesn't tell you about in the bottom right corner of the screen. Once you pull this up, all you have to do is press the 3 buttons on it in order, really slowly, and then Remnant Foxy will go away. Again, why does this work? Ride my dick like a bike, that's why. Anyways, those are the only new threats on this night, which means we're free to move on to the bonus objectives. The first and fourth objectives are pretty easy. The first has us complete the night with optimal efficiency, just like night 1, and the fourth requires us to use the drone to get rid of Remnant Foxy. By the way, this has a typo in the menu, so that's cool. The other 2 threats are pretty unique, however. The first tells us to use input lag on our monitor for 3 minutes during the night. I'll talk about that one in just a second because it's really fucking weird. So let's talk about the other one first. The other one being view Remnant Chica before she attacks you. Now, of course, while I was explaining her mechanic, never once did I say that you actually see her, and that's because you don't. However, once you get back to the aisle end, before deploying the drone, you can actually turn around and see Remnant Chica standing behind you. This is all you need to do. So not very difficult at all, but it's kind of cool, I guess. Anyways, now we can talk about the input lag objective, which is really weird. I've neglected to mention something pretty important up until this point, and that's that the EMM actually has a battery life. And the more you use it, the more it decreases because that's just how power works, dumbass. Input lag is a special mode you can put your EMM into that causes your EMM to use less power throughout the night. However, at the expense of your mouse just teleporting somewhere random around the screen at random whenever it feels like it. I've not mentioned this input lag option before either because it's like completely fucking useless, but the objective forces us to use it for at least 3 minutes throughout the night. It actually sounds a lot worse than it actually is, and it makes our shit drain less power, and with how much you'll be using it during this night, that's actually much more helpful than it is hurtful. But with that, we can move on to night 4 and the second part of this game, because if you remember like 800 years ago, I mentioned that this game was too big to fit into a single game. Alright, this is where the game starts to get fucking insane, so really prepare yourself for this. Night 4 introduces a brand new area to the game and a shitload more threats to deal with. This new area is called the Miniature Containment Room or something like that. I can't remember and I'm too lazy to look it up. I know, I'm an amazing YouTuber, aren't I? This area is a lot smaller than the map we've gotten used to, but it's also only used for a single night, so that's probably why. The main room we'll see is the containment area, in which we can see one of the characters this night introduces, Remnant Puppet. Turning to the right, we have some fucking boxes, and turning to the right again, we'll show an area where we can see Remnant Balloon Boy. Going back to the main room, we can look under the desk, and I'll mention why later. And finally, turning to the left from the main room, we can climb up a ladder, which legitimately takes about 6 fucking seconds of animation time. Oh my god. And once we're up here, we have our main view of the place, and we can turn around to look at more fucking boxes. Now we can talk about how we beat this night. Well, that's pretty easy because all we have to do is survive until 6 a.m. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I say 6 a.m.? We actually start at 6 a.m. on this night, and for some reason we have to survive until 12. It doesn't really change much, but just thought it was something I should point out. And now is when I have to tell you the news that is going to make your penis burst like a balloon. There are 8 new animatronics on this night. Technically, a few of them we've already seen before, but of course, since we're in a new area, they do something completely different. 8 fucking characters, all brand new mechanics, and I have to learn them. That's it. I'm done. Fuck it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Fuck. Damn it. Not really, of course. Just look at the length of this video. We've still got a long way to go. So let's just rip the band-aid off. So let's start by talking about the most important tool at our disposal during this night, that being the simulation monitors that we can view in the main area. Inside of this simulation is where 4 of the characters are active, these characters being Miniature Baby, Miniature Freddy, Miniature Balloon Boy, and Miniature Ballora. I'm going to talk about all of these 4 characters at the same time since they all pretty much do the exact same thing. Occasionally, any of them inside of the simulation may become pissed off about who knows what and ask you for something. On the side of the screen, you will see we have an inventory of 5 items. So if a character asks us for pizza, for example, then we have to click the pizza to give it to them. And yes, all of the characters in the simulation are humans, but if we fail to give them what they want, they will appear right next to us as animatronics and rail us from the back while using our ponytail like a handle. These 4 characters don't have any sound cues for when they're upset. However, that's where this virtual discontent percentage comes into play. For each character, whenever they get mad, they will increase this percentage by 25. This is how you know you need to go deal with one of them. Not very hard, but they're really just a problem because of the goddamn animations we'll have to deal with. Now we can move on to talking about the 4 remaining animatronics that are always physically right next to us. Let's start by talking about the easiest, that being the Miniaturinas. They appear under the desk, and they only appear if either your surrounding activity or your virtual discontent reach 30%. And once they appear, they will never leave. To prevent them from attacking you, all you have to do is occasionally check on them so they don't kill you. However, let me tell you a little secret. If they ever appear, you should just restart the night because that's a lot easier than having to actually constantly check on these fuckheads. It's a lot more convenient to just make sure these percentages never reach 30%. The next easiest character is a Remnant Balloon Boy, and he's easy because he's just the Miniaturinas, except he's always there. He's located directly behind us, and all we have to do is stare at him to prevent him from moving. So you should really just spend a majority of the night doing exactly that. The next character I want to talk about is Miniature Puppet. Just like pretty much every other character so far, Miniature Puppet also makes no sound cue when she arrives. Instead, you'll be able to tell she's spawned once the surrounding activity increases by 5%. When she does, you'll want to quickly move up the ladder and see her floating in the air, farming aura. Once we stare at Miniature Puppet long enough, another character named Venta Puppet will appear directly in front of us and start exhaling his rank-ass breath right in our face. Once Venta Puppet appears, we'll have to spam click the outer edges of our screen to like escape his grasp or something. I really don't know. And once we do that enough, both of them will leave and our surrounding activity will return to around 10%. And finally, we only have one more threat to talk about, and that is Remnant Puppet. She is by far the most difficult character on this night, so let's just get her out of the way. She will appear on the main monitor directly in front of us, and using this monitor is how we track her location. In stage 1, the monitor will say observe. In stage 2, she will get closer and the monitor will say its name like vowels when there's an E at the end of the word. What? Am I retarded? Bro, I must be losing it. I've been staring at Google Docs for too long because what the fuck did I just write? However, stage 3 is when things get bad. The monitor will change to say I am above, and it's at this time where we need to click the screen a fuck ton of times until the text Y/N shows up. Multiple times means like fucking 30, by the way, so get ready to break your mouse in half. Once the YN text appears, you have to press Y and then move up to the top area of the map. Then we have to turn around and watch the puppet crawl behind the box back into the 9th circle of hell where it came from. And that's it. I said she was the hardest, but that's really just because of how quickly you have to click about 7 million times. With all of the threats out of the way, we can move on to the bonus objectives. And thankfully, 2 of them are super easy. The first has us escape Venta Puppet, which is literally required to beat the night anyways, so that's cool. And the second is dying to Remnant Puppet, which is also not hard. However, the other 2 objectives on this night are actually pretty fucking hard. The first being getting no errors while doing the simulations. That means you can't mess up and give an unhappy character the wrong item, or give a happy character an item at all because they didn't ask for one. This is only hard because understanding which each item is kind of weird since the pictures make no sense. And finally, the hardest objective in both this night and the entire game so far is to not have Remnant Balloon Boy move from his starting position throughout the whole night. This just means we have to stare at this fat, ugly piece of shit for the majority of the night. However, this becomes really difficult when we factor in that this is entirely dependent on RNG and hoping that we don't get attacked by 2 other characters at the exact same time. And that's all Night 4 has to offer. And it's honestly such a nice breath of fresh air compared to the first 3 nights, since aside from that one bonus objective, there's literally no RNG at all and it's completely skill-based. Of course, the game still does a fucking horrible job of explaining anything. I've just kind of stopped mentioning that at this point because if I didn't, it would really quickly become 80% of this entire video. All right, moving on to Night 5, and this is where the game really brings its difficulty to the max. Sure, this entire game has been really fucking hard so far, but Night 5 and especially Night 6 are just completely fucking ridiculous. So let's get right into it. Night 5 only has 4 threats to deal with, but they're all new, and on top of that, we have another massive map to learn. And each character has an entire section of the map dedicated to them. And of course, the game still makes us read a book to understand anything, except the book might as well be in fucking Hebrew because I have no idea what any of it means. The map layout is pretty simple. We have one main hub area, and then in each direction is one of the characters' areas. To the north we have Freddy, to the east we have Chica, to the south is Bonnie, and west is Foxy. And yes, if you were wondering, there are incredibly long hallways leading to each area, and yes, the animations that play between them are long as dick and balls. The way we complete Night 5 is by doing 2 tasks. The first being surviving until 6 a.m., which for some reason takes 8 minutes this time. I don't know why time keeps warping in this game, but it does. And the second is completing something this game calls Insta Orders. What are Insta Orders, I hear you asking? Well, don't ask the game because it does a dog shit, horse shit, human shit job at it. So let me just tell you instead. Now, Insta Orders are really fucking stupid. You can do them throughout the night, but you really shouldn't. The game only needs you to complete 1 to finish the night, but the order has to be completed after you hit 6 a.m. And doing them during the night literally provides you no benefit aside from wasting your time. So just like wait until 6 a.m. to do them. The next thing we have to do once it's actually time to do the order is to establish a web line or something. To do that, all you have to do is open the monitor and press Q to open the additional monitor. Now, you might be wondering why I told you that you need to press Q. I never talk about the keybinds in FNAF games unless they're really fucking dumb. Well, that should have been the key takeaway there because this keybind is really dumb. The reason it's so dumb, well, I'm not kidding. The game quite literally never tells you about the additional monitor. It's not even hidden in some random paragraph. I read all of it. It literally doesn't tell you. You're just supposed to figure it out. Anyways, once you figure that out, open the webline menu and just wait for the connection to be established. The reason we need to do this is because if we don't have a secure webline, then the game can actually give us fake progress on our Insta Orders, which would mean that we could think we're making progress when we're just not. So that's fun. Always establish a connection, kids, especially with your runaway deadbeat dad. After we establish the connection, we just press the Insta Order button and wait for it to be done. After that, we should complete the night. However, something I should mention about both establishing a connection and completing an order is that the amount of time it takes for these actions to complete are completely fucking random and could take forever if you get really unlucky. And you can't close the monitor while these things are happening. So if an animatronic spawns during it, you will just lose. Amazing. All right, now let's move on to talking about the threats introduced. Keep in mind that each of them are dealt with in a completely different way, and each of them are located in a completely different spot on the map that takes 400 years to get to, and everything is RNG based and sucks dick. Got that? Cool. Let's talk about the first threat, Subject 1 Freddy. You know Freddy will spawn when you hear this sound cue. Once we get to Freddy, we will see him playing the piano like Beethoven. I think Beethoven played the piano. I don't know. That could be wrong. I really don't know. All we have to do is open up our monitor and select Song Data Bank. From there, all we have to do is correctly select which song Freddy is playing. He will be playing one of 4 songs, and of course, there's no way to know which one is which unless you already know them. I'm not gonna waste your time playing all of them for you, but just know that this is some bullshit trial and error. Once you choose the right song, Freddy will fuck off. The next threat we're going to talk about is Subject 2 Foxy. The way he works is
pretty interesting, but that's because he has two forms of attack. The first is really easy and is literally just Freddy, but easier. You will hear a sound cue that will play a random hertz number.
440 hertz.
Once you hear it, all you have to do is go over to Foxy's curtain, open your monitor, and go to sine waves and press whichever hertz number you heard. His other attack, however, is where it gets interesting. Once again, you will hear a sound cue, except this time it will just tell you to go to Foxy's stage.
Foxy aggression detected. Move to Foxy's stage.
Once you get there, you'll notice that you can't see Foxy poking his head out of the curtains like you saw last time. What you have to do is open up your monitor and then open the extra monitor and click cameras. This will show a camera inside of Pirate's Cove. You'll have to wait for Foxy's eyes to disappear, then close your monitors and click at the button at the bottom of the screen that says declare missing Foxy eyes. And of course, if you were wondering, the game literally doesn't tell you this fucking button exists at all. So that's just cool. Next up, I want to talk about Subject 3 Chica, who, I'll be honest, I still don't really understand how she works, but dealing with her is super easy. And I know that doesn't make sense, but just shut the fuck up. It'll make sense in just a second. When Chica attacks, she will make this sound cue. Once she does, all you have to do is go over to her section of the building, open the monitor, select override power, and then press cut, and this will make her go away. That's literally it. You might be wondering how I'm confused about that if I just explained it, but lucky you, that's what this next part of the video is all about. The reason why Chica confused me so much is the unbelievable amount of other shit that we can do to interact with her. To start, you can use oxygen removal, which will prevent Chica from killing us for 90 seconds, but will also force us to wear our mask, which, by the way, I know I haven't mentioned, but shut up, and we'll have to wear that mask the whole 90 seconds. We can also use something called a temporary fix, which will make Chica literally disappear for the rest of the night. However, from that point forward, every hour in game has a 1 in 4 chance of killing us immediately. We can use something called Prevent, which will stop Chica from ghosting for 120 seconds, but as a result, she'll become more hostile. And if you don't know what ghosting means, me too, bro. What ghosting means is that she'll just damage your mask. You might ask how we know that she's damaging it, and when she damages it. Maybe there's a sound cue, maybe there's a... Nope! The game just doesn't fucking tell us, so I have no idea, and I can't answer that question. So my main question is just, why the fuck does all this extra shit exist? You literally don't have to use any of it. Dealing with Chica is so simple, there's actually no point in using any of it at all, and in all honesty, we'll probably end up making the night more difficult if you do, rather than just dealing with her normally. And finally, we get to talk about my least favorite character, Subject 4 Bonnie. Easily the most confusing character in the entire night. Except unlike Chica, he's confusing because it's actually him who's confusing, and not all of the mechanics. Bonnie is pretty much just Freddy, but a little bit different. Where when you're dealing with Freddy, he'll play one of 4 different songs. Bonnie will instead play the same song with just 4 different versions of it. If that was confusing, that's what I meant. His song sounds like this. In our monitor, we can see 4 different buttons that relate to the 4 different versions of the song that Bonnie can play. Yes, I want to die. Thank you for asking. These buttons are with drums, without drums, normal pitch, and low pitch. But of course, this game has to make these buttons as confusing as possible and literally have them make no sense at all. Because if we hear the song without drums, instead of pushing the without drums button, we actually have to push the with drums button because fuck you in the face with my fat steamy balls. And of course, if we hear the song playing with drums, we have to push without drums. If we hear the song playing in a low pitch, we have to press normal pitch. And would you believe me if I told you that if we hear the song playing in a normal pitch, that we also have to press normal pitch, making the low pitch button literally completely fucking worthless. What the fuck is going on? What could have possibly been going through the dev's mind when creating this aside from black tar heroin? And of course, we don't get to hear the normal version of Bonnie's song at any point. So you just have to guess what the fuck low pitch and with and without drums even sounds like. So more trial and error. Hooray! However, there is one way to prevent Bonnie from being able to attack you by using a deterrent plush. It can only be placed when Bonnie isn't active, and you do this by going up to a stage and
just placing it there. This will prevent him from spawning for 30 seconds, and with each subsequent place, it will become less and less effective before it just doesn't work at all. Before we move on, I need to complain about some bullshit that makes my dick hurt. If we look at the top corner of the screen, we'll see 3 percentages. Just ignore oxygen and condition because you're not even going to notice them, I promise. What matters is attention. Attention will increase whenever you do literally anything. Pulling up the monitor, moving around, doesn't matter. It will increase. If at any point this meter reaches 15%, all of the animatronics will become much more aggressive. And with it taking 9 fucking seconds to move between rooms, when they're this aggressive, you're going to lose every single time. And the best part? That is never once explained by the game. It never tells you that reaching 15% is basically a game over. It only tells you to be wary of your attention meter. What kind of fucking tutorial is this? Are you retarded? This is the equivalent of when AAA studios test their games on top of the line equipment and then release a game that nobody can play because they don't have a $12 million supercomputer. God damn it, bro. Just explain shit better, for the love of fuck. Now let's move on to the bonus objectives. 2 of them are pretty damn easy. The first has us encounter Chica while she's ghosting. So just, like, enter her room a bunch and you'll get it. And the next one is completing the night with optimal mask damage or whatever. Just use the mask as little as possible and don't use it while Chica's ghosting. Pretty easy. The next objective is a little bit harder. That being completing the night without the plushie losing its effectiveness too much. That's referring to the Bonnie plushie, since I haven't mentioned another plushie, you dumbass. You can get away with using the plushie 3 times throughout the night before you lose this objective. So just, like, only use it 3 times. The final objective is kind of the hardest one, just a little bit different. Something I haven't mentioned during this night are the 2 specials that you can activate on your additional monitor. Both of them can only be used once during the night, and this final objective has us complete the night without using the second life special. The second life special is just a second life. If you die, you'll respawn, but the clock will be set back by a single hour. So not doing that is pretty easy. Just don't do it. I'll mention the other special since we're talking about them, even though they don't affect this objective. It's called silent mode, and it just makes no percentage be added to our attention for 35 seconds. Yeah, always use this one. There's no downside to it. All right, it's time to talk about the single reason why I never wanted to cover this game, Night 6. Night 6 has a whopping 18 fucking animatronics to deal with, and they're all bullshit. And on top of that, the tutorial screen before this night is 5 fucking pages long. Oh my god, I don't want to read all that. But I'm making this video, so obviously I read all of it, or else I wouldn't be able to tell you what you have to do. Let's start by talking about the map. Thankfully, the map is only 1 room. I was thinking it was gonna be fucking massive, but at least that's something I don't have to worry about. The way we complete this night is by surviving until 6 a.m., but that's not it. Even after we get to 6 a.m., we still have to survive another 200 seconds, making this night a total of 12 fucking minutes long. Oh my god, kill me. On top of that, we have to do another insta order, except just like the last one, we can't do it at all until the survival task has been completed. Amazing. However, I do actually have some good news for you. This night is split into multiple sections, and 3 of those sections have checkpoints, so not all hope is lost. But don't let that fool you. This is by far still the hardest night in the entire game. The first section is from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. and has us go up against the subject animatronics from night 5. Section 2 is from 2 to 4 a.m. and has us go up against Remnant Puppet, Miniature Puppet, Remnant Balloon Boy, Remnant Ballora, Miniature Baby, and Miniature Balloon Boy. So yeah, pretty much just everything all at once. I love it. After beating this section is where we get our first checkpoint. Then we move on to section 3, which is from 4 to 6 a.m. and has us deal with Revenant Freddy, Revenant Bonnie, Remnant Foxy, and Remnant Chica. And after this section, we also get another checkpoint. And finally, we move on to section 4, which is just those final 200 seconds, which have us defend ourselves from 2 new threats called Revenant's End and Amalgabot. I'm not excited for those 2, but we'll talk about them in a little bit. Let's start with section 1 and Freddy. Freddy will appear in the vent walkway's view. To get rid of him, all we have to do is open our monitor and press the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in quite literally any order. It doesn't matter, so I don't even really know why they're numbered. I guess the dev was just running out of ideas at this point. Foxy is also really easy. He'll appear in this area. Don't even remember the name, don't really care, and I doubt you do either. All you have to do is press the load voice on our monitor and he'll go away. Once again, they're running out of ideas and it's really showing. The only problem with Foxy is that he's really far away from everybody else, and after pressing the button, you have to wait like 10 seconds before you can continue. Chica is also incredibly easy. She'll appear at the prototype table, and if we happen to see her little doggies peeking out from behind the table, all you need to do is pull out your Chica plushie and turn it around. Yes, turning it around is a different action from pulling it out. Don't ask me why. This will cause her to go away. Again, super easy. I see why there's no checkpoint at the end of this section. Bonnie is the last character in this section, and he's by far the hardest. Just like Night 5, he'll play his stupid song and you have to press a button correlating to what the song sounds like. Except this game, of course, had to change the way this shit works for some reason. The buttons this time are normal pitch, low pitch, with drums, and glitched guitar. Except unlike last night, where we had to press the opposite button most of the time, this time we actually have to press the correct button because fuck you. This section also mentions 2 additional characters, Golden Freddy and Shadow Freddy. However, I'll talk about Golden Freddy later since he's always active, and from what I could tell from watching a few different playthroughs of this game, because again, I was unable to do it for myself without getting very sick. I never once saw anybody see Shadow Freddy, so I'm just gonna assume he's bugged. Now we get to move on to section 2, which is much fucking harder than section 1. Like, a lot fucking harder, oh my lord. Let's just start by talking about Remnant Balloon Boy. He appears at the communication area. He will slowly open up his chest throughout the night, and all you have to do is click it every once in a while to stop him from boinking us. The next threat is Miniature Puppet, who can spawn on your cameras at random. Of course. Oh yeah, there are cameras on this night. I just didn't say that because it wasn't relevant before. All you gotta do is stare at him and he'll eventually disappear. Just to find them on the camera character because I hate my life. Miniature Puppet doesn't kill us if we fail to do so. He just becomes an annoying hallucination on our screen, and to get rid of him we have to stare at Golden Freddy's stage. And I'll explain why that's a problem a bit later. Miniature Baby is who I'll talk about next, and she's probably the easiest character here. Just like the previous night she was in, all you have to do is look through memories for good ones whenever she attacks and she'll go away. This has the same problem as her last problem, so I'm not gonna mention it and just move on because this video is already long enough. Remnant Puppet is another pretty easy character. He only spawns on camera 5, and if you ever see him there, just press the button in the corner that changes the camera position and he'll go away for some reason. Since you'll be checking for the other puppet all the time, this guy really shouldn't be a problem. The next character I want to talk about is Miniature Balloon Boy, who is just really fucking annoying. He will want to play a game called Hide and Listen. Not quite the name of the game, but he tried his best. When he wants to play it, you have to hide under the table with him. Once you hear him leave, you can get out from under the table, and congrats! You've just played the most boring game of all time. The final character during this section is Miniature Ballora, who is pretty much just Foxy from the first section. She appears in the same area, except instead of pressing one button, we have to open the side panel and press a different button. Oh, wow. Section 3 is where it starts to get fucking insanely hard. Revenant Bonnie is probably the easiest, so let's start with him. He spawns at either the Foxy Ballora place or on Golden Freddy's stage. For both of these, all you have to do is open your camera and launch a drone to distract him because his autistic interest is drones, and that's it. Revenant Freddy is the next character I want to talk about, and I'll be honest, compared to like all of the other characters on this night, he is so much more complicated for like no reason at all. When he spawns at the prototype table, he will be playing music. You have to listen for when his song plays 2 of the exact same notes. When he does, you'll have to use those Freddy buttons from earlier, except instead of pressing them in any order, you have to press them from largest to smallest. After doing so, you then need to open the camera and reset the song from there. Why is that reset song button in the cameras instead of the monitor? I literally have no fucking idea. I really just want to be done writing. I've been doing this for the last 5 hours. I'm not even joking.
I've been scripting for the last 5 fucking hours. The script here. You see, look, that's what I said. Oh, wow. And then I told the editor to put this video right here. Isn't that cool? And we got a cat down here. What's up, kitty? Yeah, you heard that? That was her saying, it's some fucking bullshit. Stop writing. I'm like, bro, I wanna. Damn.
Remnant Foxy is super similar to Freddy because he's also complete bullshit. He will spawn under the table, and when he does, we also need to get under the table with him, I guess. I don't know why. From there, we need to open the cameras, which will now for some reason display his memories instead of cameras. What the fuck is going on? Once there, we need to select a negative memory, and that will scare him away. Do you got all this? I hope so, because if you don't, you wouldn't be able to play this game for yourself, because I had to extract this shit from mountains of text. Meanwhile, I'm just spoon feeding it to you. The final threat in this section is Remnant Chica, who is probably the easiest. She works the same as Subject 3 Chica. When you see her, just show her the plushie and she'll leave. The only actual problem is that you need to be really fucking fast when she spawns. And finally, we can move on to talking about the hardest section throughout this entire night, with the characters Revenant's End and Amalgabot. Let's start by talking about Revenant's End, since he is by far the most difficult and leaves a sour taste in my mouth, and I really just want to forget about him. Revenant's End has 3 different ways to attack us, all with different ways of dealing with him. The first place he can attack is in an elevator I've just not mentioned so far. When you get to the elevator, you can open the doors to see if he's there. If he's not, you'll see 2 plushies. If you actually do see him, you'll have to close the doors, wait 3 seconds, and then reopen them. Repeat this until you see him standing up, and then you can walk away. The other 2 ways he can attack are pretty much the same. The first has him spawn near Golden Freddy. We need to turn to the vent view of Golden Freddy's stage and play a voice lure from the monitor to lure him away. Once he's there, we get rid of him in the exact same way that we get rid of him in the third way. And the third way is having him just spawn next to the vents themselves. When he does, 4 buttons will appear in the corners of your screen, and you need to press them in a Z pattern to close a mask over your face, which will scare him away. Amalgabot also has 3 different ways to attack, and from what I could tell, he always seems to attack right after Revenant's End. The first attack is really easy. He spawns by the communications post, and all you have to do is put your mask on, and it'll scare him away for some reason. The second way he attacks makes me want to kill myself. He'll spawn at the table, and we'll have to open up our cameras and search them until we find a stop music button that appears on one of them at random. I'm sure you can tell why I don't like this attack. We have to spam click this button until it disappears, which, yes, by the way, is entirely luck-based, and then he'll go away. His final attack is pretty much exactly the fucking same. He'll spawn under the table, and we have to go under there with him. From there, we have to open the cameras and find another randomly spawning button and click it, and he'll go away. Great. More RNG. Love it. And of course, now is the time that I should talk about Golden Freddy, who has been attacking us this entire time. He is obviously on his stage, and every once in a while his music will become unstable. When that happens, we just have to go over to his speakers and decrease the volume, and you're done. If you were expecting him to be super ass and insanely interesting, you're probably disappointed, because that's literally it. You might be thinking that all that's left to be talked about is the bonus objectives, but you'd be wrong, because there's actually a fuck ton more during this night that the game quite literally never fucking mentions. To start, let's talk about the metric shitload of fuck in the top corner of the screen. Attention, oxygen, and condition are exactly the same as in Night 5, so we'll just skip those. The first real mechanic is power. It constantly goes down no matter what you do, but if you go to the communication table, you can increase it by 10% just by pressing a button and waiting. The next one is radiation exposure, which I've literally never seen anybody increase no matter what they've done, so I really don't know what to say about that. And once again, the game doesn't tell you either. And the final one is health, which will only ever decrease when Minotaur Puppet is doing her hallucination thing. That's why I don't like her, by the way. I could have said that when I was talking about her, but fuck you. Also inside of our monitor, we have 3 repair buttons that do literally nothing and 2 specials. One that gives us unlimited power for 30 seconds and another that does the silent mode thing for 35 seconds again. So yeah, just use them both because they're good. Okay, I kind of lied about the repair buttons being useless. Repair leaks is actually useful. Occasionally, at random, a gas leak will happen to drain our oxygen and kill us, so use this button to fix it. That's it. The other 2 are actually useless, though. There is still a lot more shit, honestly. Like, probably another 20 minutes of shit to mention. I'm not even kidding.
like this weird virus thing near the Foxy area. But I seriously just want to be done talking about this game, and in all honesty, these extra things really aren't interesting or impactful at all. Finally, we can talk about the bonus objectives, which aren't really that bad, except 2 of them, which actually do suck dick and balls. The 2 easy ones are beating the night without any specials. You don't really need the specials to beat the night, so that's not really that big of a problem. And the other is to beat the night without passing 10% radiation. Again, I've never seen anybody get any radiation, so that also isn't really a problem. The bonuses that actually get hard start with beating the night without reaching 22% attention. With how much shit you have to do to complete this night, it's obviously going to be hard as shit. And the final bonus objective is by far the hardest and brings up another character I've mentioned twice during this night already. That being completing the night without going below 80% health. Basically, that just means you can never be attacked by Miniature Puppet, since if she becomes a hallucination, it is literally impossible to not go below 80% health. This is why I told you guys to really make sure you're focusing on her, because otherwise you won't be able to get this objective. But that's way fucking easier said than done, since the second section where Miniature Puppet is present probably has the most shit to do out of any other section. So you're pretty much going to get no time to actually check for her. So have fun. I know I wouldn't. And yes, before you guys say anything, I know that this game has a fuck ton more shit to do in the post game, with a lot harder nights filled with a bunch more bullshit that will make me want to cry. But this video is already so fucking long, and I've been scripting for no joke the last 7 hours straight. Yeah, when I told you I was done with 5 hours of scripting like 10 minutes ago, it actually took me 2 more hours to script from that point to this point. There was that much shit to look up. I need to be done. Plus, I don't want to hand my editor a long as fuck video.
The FNAF Fanverse Initiative, an idea Scott Cawthon had that was so good. The ability to bring fan game devs of your games into a closer community and allow them to sell merchandise based off of your branding is an amazingly generous and incredible opportunity. Having amazing games come out of it, such as Joy of Creation, Five Nights at Candy's, and Pop Goes, each of these creators are very passionate in what they do, and it shows. Another game to come out of the fanverse is One Night at Flumpty's 3, the 3rd game in an incredibly designed series. But as something that has become all too familiar with FNAF fan games, as previously seen in games like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and Dormitibus, the creators' morals and ethics of said games can be called into question. And sadly, the creator of this game, Jonachrome, had his turn on the chopping block that is the internet. Today, I'll be diving into Jonachrome's fantastic FNAF fan game series, all the goods, all the bads, and the disturbing accusations that had the light shined on them for all the public to see. Come with me as we explore the masterpiece of a FNAF game created by a deviant. One Night at Flumpty's 1 is what you'd expect from an old FNAF fan game. It's pretty much just a recreation of FNAF 1, but this game did it differently. Something I think a lot of people could agree with me on is that One Night at Flumpty's was ahead of its time. No other FNAF fan game was as well put together as Flumpty's was. You could argue Five Nights at Candy's was, but I'm not talking about Candy's right now, am I? As the title suggests, this game only features one night, but don't let that make you think it'll be a cakewalk. This one night is up there in difficulty with nights 5 and 6s from the normal FNAF games, and the difficulty increases by the hour instead of the day. Before I dive into gameplay, however, I want to talk about how amazing this game really looks. There's a lot to be said about Jonachrome, and I'll be diving more into his character at the end of the video. But Jonachrome is an artist, and a damn good one at that. Every single location in this game has so much character put into it, especially the office. Sure, there's a lot of dead things, but ignore what it is for a second and just admire how well done the 2D art in this game really is. Not many FNAF games go for a 2D approach, and I really wish more did because I think it looks amazing. Look at Playtime with Percy for another example. That game is 2D and it looks incredible. Then look at another completely flawless and probably the best FNAF game ever designed with zero competition, FNAF Shitpost. Another game with 2D art that is fantastic, and I definitely have no bias over that game at all. This game did something no other was doing at the time, and it has aged like a fine wine. But now, let's jump butthole first into the gameplay. As mentioned already, this game only has one night. But dear God, it's a long one. Each hour of this night is a minute and a half.
making the full night 9 minutes long, which is a crazy amount of time for a FNAF game where you need to have good nerve control. Just like FNAF 1, you have a power system. However, it's only affected by your doors, so feel free to camp the cameras as much as you'd like without the worry of draining your power, which I promise you'll be doing often, as this game is going to rail you in the asshole with encounters, and you'll have to stay on top of each character's location. Speaking of the characters, who are they? Nice segue, Dexter. Thanks, Dexter. The first guy we'll talk about is obviously Flumpty, the main attraction. Flumpty acts both as the Freddy of this game and the phone guy. At the beginning of the night, he tells you that his name is Flumpty and that he is immune to the plot and can transcend space and time. He goes on to tell you that he kidnapped you and brought you here to be friends and that he's coming after you. And coming after you, he is. Holy shit. This guy moves at the speed of sound. Flumpty moves randomly across cameras with no pattern, and he can teleport wherever and whenever he likes. Which means, if you're unlucky like me, he can get to your office in about 15 fucking seconds after the night starts. That's awesome. I'm in for a shitty time, aren't I? I'm covering 3 games in this video? Can I get that confirmed? Can I? Hey, can you confirm that? Uh-huh. Yeah? Yeah, alright, fuck me. 3 games in the first 15 seconds already has me stressing. I love this. If you're unable to see Flumpty on any of the cameras, that means one of 2 things. Either 1, he's on the broken camera, which I'll talk about later, or 2, he's at your left door. If he's at your left door, just close it and bada bing bada boom, he can't get in. But something you'll immediately notice is that, unlike FNAF 1, there's no windows, so you won't be able to tell when he's left by just sitting in your office. So you'll have to constantly be checking the cameras to see where he is. And when he moves as fast as he does, it can get overwhelming quickly. Let's talk about our next freak, birthday boy Blam, or just Blam as I'll be calling him. Blam works very similarly to Flumpty, except he attacks the right door and he can't teleport like a dick. He follows a set path to your right door. Just close it, watch the cameras to see when he leaves. I just queefed. That's all you have to do about him. Oh, and in case you're curious, he's also Usain fucking Bolt and moves around the building at Mach 30, so that's just awesome. The Beaver is up next on the chopping block, and yes, his name is just the Beaver. I guess Jonachrome gave up on names here, but that's okay. What does he do? The Beaver acts as this game's Foxy, which it honestly didn't even need because of how often you're checking the cameras, but who really cares? The Beaver is sitting on the toilet taking a big fat patty-whacker double-decker dump and reading a newspaper with several tasteful stories in it. Next to the toilet, you'll see a roll of toilet paper. Throughout the night, the more you fail to watch the Beaver, the smaller the roll of toilet paper will get. When he runs out of toilet paper, the Beaver will sprint at your right door. Also, quick side note, the Beaver has knife feet. I don't know why, it's just something interesting to note. Who's up next, huh? Who do I have in my sights? Boom! Grunkfuck, Grunkfuss the Clown. Arguably one of the most popular characters to come out of this series. Grunkfuss is the first character I've mentioned who doesn't start at the beginning of the night. Instead, he starts at 4 a.m. I love this clown's mechanic. It's incredibly cool. I should mention that this game deliberately doesn't tell you how to play, and it doesn't describe how any of the characters work, leaving you to figure it out yourself. I love this idea, and it can lead to you feeling pretty smart when you find a small detail that can help you figure out how a character works, and Grunkfuss is a perfect example. Grunkfuss doesn't show up on your cameras. Instead, he is only ever visible inside of your office. As the night goes on, he will become more and more visible via a hole in the wall of your office. Well, that doesn't sound fair, I hear you say, and I usually agree, until you put your thinking cap on and realize there's a hint in this game that perfectly explains how Grunkfuss works. On camera 5, there's a hole in the ground with 30 eyes inside. That number is very important. Every time you lift your camera up, you'll notice that one of the 30 eyes have disappeared, and every time you pull your camera down, Grunkfuss becomes more visible. If his eyes reach 0, when you pull the camera down, Grunkfuss will grunk-fuck your shit up. I think this is such a cool little hint this game gives you to explain how he works. You could easily play through the whole game and never piece this together. This is something I really love when games do, and I'd really like to see more of it. But we've still got more to talk about, buddy. Let's move on to the Red Man. Red Man becomes active on hour 3 and starts on camera 3. You'll notice throughout the game up until this point that camera 3 has never been visible. That's because Red Man isn't technically visible on the cameras. Whichever camera he's on will be blacked out, which lets you know where he is. Redman slowly moves from camera 3 to your left door where you'll be able to see him and close it. Just like the other door characters, you'll have to watch the camera for when he leaves. This brings me back to a point I made when talking about Flumpty. If Flumpty or Blam are on the same camera as Redman, they too won't be visible, meaning there's a possibility you won't be able to find them, and a possibility that you'll shit your pants as I did when I couldn't find Flumpty because he was camping out with Redman. So that was fun. The final character I have to briefly mention is Golden Flumpty, and I say briefly because there's not much to talk about. Sometimes you'll see him in your office, and when you do, you have to quickly pull up the cameras. If you don't, a dead sandwich is what you'll be turned into. In terms of characters, that's all One Night at Flumpty's has to offer. This game can be brutally hard. Obviously, like any FNAF game with enough practice, you'll be able to beat this game like clockwork. But hot damn, your first run through might very well be pretty difficult, especially considering you're not taught how to do a goddamn thing. But that's the first game. I'd personally say that it's fantastic. But what if I told you the second game is even better? Let's waste no time and jump into it. One Night at Flumpty's 2 is visually just as great as the first. Each setting looks fantastic. The game is significantly harder than the first, mainly because there's much more to focus on. To start, this game's phone call actually explains the rules, like a little bit. You're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error, but hey, it's still more than the first game gave us. The phone call this time around is a short song, which, that's just lovely, isn't it? The song explains if our lights are off, we're safe, and if they're not, we're about to get our cheeks spread apart so hard they rip off. So, why is the light so important? Well, let's do what we do best and go over each threat one by one. Let's start with Flumpty. As he was in the last game, he's pretty basic in terms of mechanics. Like in the first game, he teleports around wherever and whenever he pleases, so don't think for a goddamn second you're safe, because you're not. He's hungry for ass, and you got a whole lot of it. He a hungry bitch. If at any point you can't find him on the cameras, he will be right outside of your door in the hallway, and in a few seconds, will pop his head in and give you a blumpkin. Characters looking into your office actually brings up one of this game's central mechanics, which I think is really cool. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see an exposure meter. If at any point that meter fills all the way up, it's time for Flumpty and his friends to eat toast off your ass without the toast. When Flumpty peeks his head in, he will have his hands over his eyes to play a quick game of peekaboo with you. Be lucky that he's forgiving like this, because no other character from this point forward will be. While he has his eyes covered, your exposure meter will not increase. This gives you about half a second to turn the lights to your room off. After a few seconds, he will leave and you can turn your lights back on. But before we continue, let's go over what else happens when you turn your lights off. Let me quickly go over the camera and something I noticed about these games that I really like. Notice how in the first game, the camera didn't waste any power. Well, in this game it does, but it does it in a much more engaging way than it does in other FNAF games. Rather than just lowering an arbitrary number, you'll notice on the bottom of your screen you also have a laptop power meter, your laptop being your cameras. While your laptop is up, that meter will decrease, and when you put the laptop back down, the meter will slowly charge and increase again. I love this mechanic. It's still consequential to sit on your cameras, but it still keeps you in control. These games have such good balancing. I struggle to find other FNAF games to match in this department. If your laptop meter is to go completely empty, it will forcibly close and you'll have to wait for it to charge all the way back up before opening it. And when you do, you'll have to wait for the laptop to reboot. This may not seem like a very big deal, but when watching the cameras is as important as it is in this game, having to wait those 10 seconds can feel like an eternity. But back to turning the lights off. When the lights are turned off, you cannot access your cameras, and your laptop will not charge. This is one of those multiple ways this game keeps you from sitting alone in the dark. Something I think all of you chronic gooners should take note of. Blam Birthday Bitch Boy is next. He, like in the last game, works almost the same as Flumpty, moves around a set path, goes to your office, takes a sneak peek at your bits. However, this motherfucker don't play no games. No peekaboo for this guy. Once he's looking, your exposure meter starts to climb. This leads to you needing to watch the cameras and track his location, because even multiple small slivers over how godforsakenly long this night is will start to add up and lead to your asshole looking like a cave. Blam increases your meter faster than Flumpty does. Even though Flumpty is literally a chaos god of death, he increases your meter slower than any other character in this game. Something I think says a lot about his character. I'd say he's just a little harmless guy, but he also has canonically killed 1 billion birds with one stone. No, I'm not joking. Grunk Fuckass the Clown is also pretty similar to how he was in the first game. Psych! I fucking lied, bitch! Go look in the mirror at how fucking stupid your face is. You actually thought for a second I wasn't gonna lie straight to your stupid, dumb, ugly face, but I did. Anyways, Funko Pop the Clown can be seen crouched on camera too. Around 2 a.m. he will become active, with a hole appearing on your wall and a patience number appearing on camera too, and quickly decreasing. Once Grunkle Stan the Clown's patience wears thin, he'll pop his head through the hole in your wall and dramatically begin increasing your exposure meter. I'm talking Tyson Gay levels of quickness, and I say Tyson Gay instead of Usain Bolt because there's one character who increases it even faster. Eyesore is technically another character returning from the first. Remember the eyes that appeared in the hole on the floor that showed how many times you could flick up the camera before Fuckhead the Clown would ream you from behind? Yeah, that's him. That's Eyesore. Eyesore will start on camera 1, but won't be active until 4 a.m. Keep in mind, each hour in this game is long as fuck. He'll make his way to your office and peer in. When I tell you, the speed at which this bastard eviscerates your exposure meter is faster than the speed at which I bolt to the toilet after Indian food. I'm not lying. I suppose it makes sense given how many eyes he has, but like, damn! Don't let this guy eye bang you for too long, no matter how sexually attracted you are to it. The last returning character we have to bring up is Redman.
But Dexter, what about the beaver?
He fucking died. He fell into the toilet and fucking died. Are you happy? I didn't want to have to tell you, but you pulled my leg. Dick? Anyways, Redman. At random points during the night, warning pop-ups will appear on your laptop. If you're not in your laptop, it will be signified next to your camera button with a warning sign like the music box from FNAF 2. When you see this warning message, it will be accompanied with a loading bar. If the loading bar fully increases, you'll be as dead as disco. All you have to do is click cancel. If you lose to Redman in this game, I have no sympathy for you. You have to try and lose to this guy. What about new character? Well, there's only one, but he's pretty sick. The Owl. The Owl will appear on your cameras taking a fat-ass nap. Throughout the night, he will open his eyes and eventually leave the urinal he's perched on. When he does, you'll have to quickly check your vent cameras to see which vent he's about to assault you through. Once you know, you'll have to close the vent in your office in accordance with which side the Owl is attacking you from. If you don't, you guessed it, ask buffet and you're the main course. The vents don't waste any power, but only one of them can be closed at a time. So there's that. Additionally, you can close the vents even if your lights are off, which is incredibly generous and really just adds to the flow and pattern this game has. The final character I want to talk about is Golden Flumpty. So I guess I technically lied when I said Redman was the last recurring character, but fuck you. He works the same way as he did in the first game. Sometimes you'll see him in your office, either quickly turn the lights off or pull up your camera and he'll leave. Whoopity-doo, lore or something, I don't really know. That's all One Night at Flumpty's 2 has going for it. Well, it has a difficulty mode called Hard Boiled, which drastically increases the difficulty of the night, but it doesn't change any fundamental game mechanics, so I don't think it's worth diving into. One Night at Flumpty's 2 is such an enormous step up from the first, and that's saying a lot considering how amazing the first game really was. With the third game right around the corner, I can't wait to see what Jonachrome came up with. Oh, did I say right around the corner? Sorry, I meant 6 fucking years later. One Night at Flumpty's 3 released in 2021. Jonachrome made it clear he was never interested in making another Flumpty's game after 2, but the only reason he did is because Scott reached out to him for the Fanverse initiative. So what does 3 have to offer, and does it live up to the last 2? Flumpty's 3 is just like the last in one way. The art is phenomenal. Every single scene is fantastic and full of references. It makes the game very fun to look at. The office in this game is very frozen. You'll notice a thermometer in the corner of your screen. It's very important that you keep yourself warm and not let that meter reach empty, or you'll freeze to death like a bitch. You can go over to the furnace to have it slowly increase, and you'll need to be doing this throughout the night. How about the threats though? Returning from the last 2 games, we have Blam, who works very similarly to how he does in previous games. He'll move around the building in a set path and make it to your door, which in this game is really just a hallway. The cameras don't have power, so you should be camping them as often as you can. When Blam gets to your door is when we have to talk about a new mechanic, your camera. On the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a camera button with 20 uses. That's right, you can only use this camera 20 times throughout the night before it won't work anymore. So you better make sure you're keeping track of where every character is,
because you don't want to waste any of these flashes. When Blam gets to your door, all you have to do is flash the hall and he'll run away. But be aware, there's no visual or auditory cue to signify that he's there, which is why watching the cameras is so important. Next, we've got another returning character, which by the way, there are no new characters, so I'll stop mentioning this. Anyways, the next character is Grunk Punk-Ass Slut Bitch the Clown. He does literally the exact same thing as Blam, but with one key difference. You do not want to flash him when he's in the hallway. The flash makes him scared and he'll pee his pants. That makes him embarrassed and he'll have to kill all the witnesses, and sadly for you, you're the only witness, so guess it's time to die. But being serious, while Grunkfuss is technically easier to deal with than Blam, he really makes you make sure you know where everyone is, because one false flash and it's game over. Next up on the chopping block, as I've said for the second time this video, is the Red Man. He becomes active at 1 AM and will make his way towards your furnace. On his furnace room camera, you'll see a warning telling you to stay away from your furnace. If you go to warm up by the furnace while this message is present, he'll eat your ass from the back, which I know some of you dirty freaks want, but for the rest of us normal people is something we'd prefer to prevent. I actually think this is a really nice mechanic. Something to keep you away from the only safe thing you have is super interesting. Knock knock, who's there? I don't really know, I don't usually answer my door, but we're talking about the eyesore next. He becomes active at 4 AM and actually can't be seen on the cameras. So how are you supposed to defend yourself? Well, lucky for you, you can actually see him in your hallway. Unlike the other characters, however, you'll actually have to flash eyesore twice to make him go away. And because your camera has a cooldown, this can lead to a deadly combo with Grunkussy. You'll need to make absolutely sure he's not in the hall when you go to flash eyesore. What about the owl? I hear you asking. Well, a better question would be, what about the beaver? Better yet, how about both of them, because they're both here in this game merged together as one in the form of the bee-vowel. Talk about a freak of nature, am I right? Chat, if I ever end up looking like this freak, please pull the plug, I won't be mad. Anyways, the bee-vowel starts at 2 AM and will appear on camera 3 in the hot tub. He will gradually climb out of the tub and crawl into your vent. This brings up the other side of your office where you can actually see the vent. This vent functions the exact same way the other door does. When you know the bee-vowel is in the vent, all you have to do is flash him with your camera and he'll go away. But this does lead to a split path that you'll have to watch just as much as the door path, which can become stressful as the night progresses. Finally, we have to talk about Golden Flumpty, who is just as uneventful as he was in the last two games. When you see him on your cameras, you can't pull down the camera unless you switch to another camera he isn't on. Otherwise, he kills you. And that's all the threats. Survive until 6 AM and the final game in the Flumpty's franchise is over. In all honesty, I think this game isn't nearly as good as Flumpty's 2. I think that might be because of the fact that Jonachrome... Huh? What? What about Flumpty? I didn't talk about him? Oh, yeah, about that. Flumpty is pretty pissed that you survived as long as you should have, and is even more pissed at his friends for not being able to kill you. Being a god, Flumpty sets the time back to 12 AM, murders all of his friends, and comes to get you himself. I lied. We're not even close to being done. Let's talk about this game's second night, Flumpty Night. You'll immediately notice some new stuff, but I'll talk about them as they become important. In this night, after killing all his friends, Flumpty transcends space and time and is able to morph his body and appear in multiple places at a time. He replaces all of his friends and takes a majority of the mechanics of the night. Let's go over each Flumpty clone together. It can get a bit confusing, and this night is a clusterfuck, but I'll hold your hand and explain everything as best I can. And let me tell you, my palms are clammy. The first clone to talk about is Another Flumpty. Yes, his name is literally, quote, Another Flumpty, end quote. This guy is the exact same as Birthday Boy Blam. Fireside Flumpty replaces the Red Man. Spider Flumpty, aka fucking animated Flumpty, again, that is literally his name, replaces the bee-vowel. But something cool I want to mention about Spider Flumpty is that he is gorgeously animated. Like, look at his animation when he crawls through the vent. It's gorgeous. Now we need to talk about the Flumpty clones that have their own mechanic in this game. Except not really. All-Seeing Eye Flumpty acts exactly like Grunkfuck does in Flumpty's 2. On camera 6, he'll have a patience timer, and when it reaches 0, he'll appear in your office through a hole in your wall. Also, you'll notice on this night that an exposure meter literally slides in from the side of the screen during the night, and All-Seeing Eye Flumpty will increase it. You get rid of him by flashing your camera at him. This night is about to get a lot more insane, I promise. Flumpty.exe replaces what the red man does from Flumpty's 2. Occasionally, a program will appear on your camera, and if you don't cancel it in time, then it's time for an ass-eating buffet. Shadow Flumpty works just how Grunkinky does in Flumpty's 1. The more you lower your camera, the further and further through positions he gets in your office. Lower it too many times, and he's gonna go spelunking in your asshole. I'm talking pounding ass pickles. Door Flumpty is where the 2 extra doors in your office come into play. He'll appear on either camera 8A or camera 8B. You can stop him by turning on your laser doors to keep him out. Also, you'll notice you have door power at the top of your screen, so just something else you'll need to keep track of. Are you stressed yet? We're not done yet. While on your camera, sometimes you'll notice something really cool. Flumpty will fucking move the cameras 8A and 8B around to change which door that Door Flumpty attacks from. The first time I saw this while playing, I was freaking out. It's honestly such a cool idea that I've never seen done before. Finally, we have to talk about Virtual Boy Flumpty. Once 3 AM hits, if you look at your camera, you'll see a new section of the map that was never there before, slowly lower from the top of the screen and add 2 new cameras to the game for you to keep track of. I want you to keep in mind, all the other bullshit I've already mentioned is still happening right now. Virtual Boy Flumpty will make his way to camera 10, which you'll see has a door power switch. If you let Virtual Boy Flumpty get into this room, he will flip the switch, permanently turning off the laser doors you use to keep Door Flumpty out. So how do you stop Virtual Boy Flumpty? Well, this is really awesome. You have to close another set of doors on the fucking cameras. I swear to God I'm smoking crack because this is insane. There is actually so much shit going on this night. It's so much fun to play once you get into a groove. This is something that Jonachrome does that not many other FNAF creators can replicate. Although all of this is happening at the same time, you will almost never feel like completing it is based on luck. Everything flows together so smoothly, it's just super fun to play. Midway through 4 AM, a new song will start playing and the true boss fight begins. This final stretch is so much fun. When the song starts playing, you'll notice every single bit of your UI start to change to completely random intervals constantly. However, all of the systems still work. Sure, you can't visually see where your thermometer is at, but it's still decreasing and you will still have to manage it. Flumpty sings a little song, and if you manage to get to 6 AM, the game truly ends. We get one last final cutscene where Flumpty finally lets us leave, and we see what the world has become while we've been trapped with him. Nothing but a wasteland, and we begin to question if escaping was even worth it at all. And the One Night at Flumpty's universe comes to a close. One Night at Flumpty's was one of the earliest FNAF fan games made, and I personally think it still holds up as one of the best in the world. Each game got better than the last, which is something that sadly doesn't happen with most series. I'm very glad that Jonachrome had such good attention to detail to make sure that the games never got stale. As much as I'd love to see more games from the Flumpty's franchise, I think it's best that 3 remains the final game, and I think Jonachrome thinks that way too. Flumpty's 3 finally showed us the extent of Flumpty's power with an amazing boss battle at the end, and he even honored his word by letting you leave once you beat him. This is such an incredible ending to such an incredible game, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think One Night at Flumpty's is as close to perfection as a FNAF game can be, and it truly shows. But of course, with the good comes the bad, and it's time to talk about Jonachrome himself and the accusations that were thrown at him. 8 days after the release of One Night at Flumpty's 3, a user on Twitter posted a twit longer stating the following. Hello, my name is unimportant in this matter and I'd rather stay anonymous. I love this community. I absolutely have been a part of the FNAF fandom ever since 2014. The point of this is to try to make it safer for everyone and minors. Don't go attacking Scott over this. He had absolutely no way of knowing who Jonachrome really is. I also strongly insist that minors stay within their age groups when meeting friends in the same fandom online, whether artists or not. With that said, this is my testimony coming clean about Jonachrome. After seeing the release of One Night at Flumpty's 3 and how Jonachrome has insisted on staying within the community and fanverse, I cannot stand by and allow him to continue being within this fandom, and I really should have come forward much earlier when I initially found out. I was involved with plenty of his group DMs from 2016 to 2018. A girl by the name of Emily was 13 to 14 at the time, and he came all out about his relationship with her. Within group DMs we've had, Jonachrome was already in his 20s. Charges cannot be pressed as Emily would need to do it herself as she would now be 19. I have evidence to prove this with links to all of it. and witness statements, and messages from Jonachrome himself. This man should not be praised at all, and I hope this helps people see him for what he really is, and why he should be removed altogether from any community he has a high stance in. It can be gathered that Jonachrome stated he was dating this girl, but was not going to do anything sexual until she was of legal age, which some would constitute as grooming. In my personal opinion, none of that is as damning as John's own messages. In one message, he flat out admits his plan to marry Emily, who, keep in mind, is a child. Jonachrome also mentioned how they'd been dating for 2.5 years, and considering how she had her date of birth set at 2002, this would have made her about 14 years old when they started dating. It's also very clear that Jonachrome knew that what he was doing was wrong, as in 2017 he was very concerned about the net neutrality laws, which he thought would cause conflict with his being able to communicate with her. The twitlonger wasn't up for long when Jonachrome responded. The title of his response stated that both he and Emily knew that this would happen at one time or another. His response reads, "Well, if my statement means anything, here it goes. I'm not a child groomer and I'm not a pedophile. Plain and simple. I wouldn't dream of manipulating or abusing or exploiting anyone, much less minors. And the twitlonger has no evidence to suggest that I did. It comes across as spiteful to me more than it comes across as a post made out of legitimate concern for anyone's safety. That said, I can't deny that the screenshots are real. When Emily and I met, dating wasn't even a consideration for obvious reasons. We were friends who got along really well. My first relationship was with someone my age, which only lasted a few months because we didn't communicate very well. That was when I started questioning what was really important in a relationship and what actually makes two people compatible. I realized that Emily and I share the same religious beliefs, we have similar sense of humor, there's a lot of overlap in our interests and hobbies, and we could both comfortably talk about a lot of things. We both felt like maybe we were meant to be together and were just born at the wrong times. We started talking, making it clear right away that there would be nothing sexual about our conversations and that we wouldn't meet in person until she was at least 18. We enjoyed each other's company, just talking and hanging out. Occasionally we'd watch movies together. For a long time, I didn't see the harm in it. I always put her needs before my own, always claiming to do what was best for her, and in a way, I thought I was saving her from experiencing the same heartbreak I did. This year, 2021, would have been the year we met in person, with her age at 19. But this was also when I learned she was starting to have doubts about our relationship. She knew I didn't mean any harm, while also saying I had effectively prevented her from exploring other romantic options by approaching her when I did. I'd like to say I knew better, but until that moment, I kinda didn't. I'd thought I'd done everything right, and I gambled on the assumption that if we were meant to be together, it wouldn't have mattered in several more years. But the reality is, I didn't give her enough time to grow, and I shouldn't have even entertained the idea. It's a mistake I've made the one time, and I'll never make it again for as long as I live. For anyone who wishes to hear the victim side of the story, Emily and I are on good terms, and she's planning on making her own response to this as soon as she can. Regardless, I was wrong for pursuing a relationship with her. I can't change the past, but I hope that my story can at least serve as an example for others. Please, whether you're an adult or a minor, don't make the same mistake I did. You might have the best intentions and the utmost confidence in a potential relationship with someone out of your age range, and you might not see any red flags, but that's no excuse. It's not worth it. Minors should be especially careful in an online space because there are people out there who want to take advantage of it. This could have ended a lot worse. Stay safe. Later after that, Emily responded herself, and her response reads, "Jonachrome is not guiltless in this, as I'm an adult now, I'm completely aware of that. But he is genuinely a kind-hearted person who just did something to himself that he shouldn't have. As a minor at the time, of course I was super dumb and naive, but as an adult, Jonachrome was 100% responsible for his action. He has apologized to me several times, and I truly still believe he's a good person. We even talk on good terms even though we're separate. But he has recognized that he fucked up. So please, as the victim, leave the man alone. Let me clarify. He has never tried to solicit anything from me. He has never asked me to do anything I didn't want to. It was not good to consider us having a romantic relationship when I was very explicitly not old enough. But keep in mind, we've always been friends. Jonachrome is easygoing, fun to talk to. We used to watch movies together and talk about what we liked about them. We used to draw cute pictures for each other. We used to talk about the games we'd like. Morally, it was wrong to have romance between us, but it was innocent too. To say that it was grooming is where it becomes gray, because I feel like it was definitely unintentional somehow. That sounds like I'm confused, but I know why that is. If he had malice intent, he would have been much more persistent than he was. But no, he's not dangerous whatsoever. If Jonachrome attempts something like this again, yeah, I don't think I could trust him. He has done something awful, but that doesn't mean he himself is awful. What matters is how he moves on. If he's learned from this to know not to go any further from what he did to me. I was the one who confronted him about how our relationship would cause too many problems as an adult, and that's why I broke ties. Over those 6 years, I can say confidently that I care about the man's well-being. I don't want him to suffer. Let me say this again. Legally, he has not committed any crime. He's shown no clear intent to harm me, nor has he sent any harmful content to a minor. He is innocent in that respect, but that doesn't mean I'm excusing it. I'm just saying I, the victim, am okay. I'm also aware that no sexual stuff until legal is wrong and gross, because that does constitute as grooming. But there was still genuinely a relationship between us. Not romantically, but a friendship that we had. I can confidently say John Acrome was a good friend. Yes, there was romance. It wasn't good by any means. He and I both knew there was something wrong with it, but I tried to pretend that it wasn't there. But please do not harass him. I can tell he's doing better because he talked to me before this mess got out. As for the person who exposed John Acrome, I do not wish to be involved in this. I do not care about this anymore. I've moved on and so has he. If I am his only victim, then don't make any more accusations. I know this situation better than anyone. To everyone, don't say, I'm sorry this happened to you, because John Acrome is already sorry, and to me, that's enough. I don't need your sympathy. Spread my response so people know what actually happened. As an adult, I'm not pressing any charges against John Acrome, and I truly hope he's living his best life. He's been seeking therapy, and I do hope he'll make it out alive in this. His multiple apologies to me are proof of his self-improvement. I'm hoping this is enough. I do not want to make another statement, and frankly, I'm pissed that it even came out because he's hopefully not going to do this again, and I'm not traumatized from it. If he does it again, go ahead, talk about it. Otherwise, leave us alone. John Acrome eventually made one more statement, which is way too long for me to cover in this video, but he basically says that he didn't groom Emily because grooming requires sexual intent, which he claims he never had while in the relationship. John had been gone for years, but has actually, as of writing this, released a video on his gaming channel 3 weeks ago. He says he's been in therapy and is looking forward to working on more projects. As far as I'm aware, we still haven't heard from Emily or the anonymous person who brought this to light, but everyone has seemed to move on and they have accepted their faults and took accountability. While what John Acrome did was wrong, no doubt about it, I truly think he's good at heart. I and many others all hope that this was a one-time thing, and I hope that this was a very clear wake-up call to never do something like this again, and it appears that that is the case. I and many others are excited to see what John Acrome has in store for us, even if it has nothing to do with the One Night at Flumpty's series.
Being overwhelmed, not necessarily something as we people look for in life. There are a lot of things people like to do that don't really make sense to me. Some people like to go cliff jumping or skydiving, something to give them an adrenaline rush, and while I myself would never do it, I can at least understand how that could be appealing. You want to know something nobody ever wants though? To be overwhelmed. This is the reason why a lot of max mode challenges can turn a lot of people off, and the same reason why I have no interest in trying out Hopeless Pursuit. For the love of God, please stop emailing me about Hopeless Pursuit. I'm not doing it. However, recently I found a FNAF game that is one of the most unique FNAF experiences I've ever played, except there was something very interesting about it. It has to be one of the most overwhelming Five Nights at Freddy's games I've ever played. This is probably going to be a long one, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about Next Week at Freddy's. Next Week at Freddy's takes FNAF 1 and completely reworks everything about it, adding several brand new mechanics to make your heart sink into your ass. And nothing explains this feeling better than when you load into the office and turn around for the first time.
Oh, whoa. Whoa, oh. 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 Fuck.
This is the control panel, your main mode of defense throughout this game. If this looks like a lot, that's because it is. Here's a fun fact. I actually went to play this game around 4 months ago, but after seeing this monstrosity behind me, I actually ended my recording and chose a different game to play because of how ridiculous it looked. This control panel is intimidating. There are so many switches, levers, and panels on this thing. I wouldn't blame you if you decided just from glancing at this that this game wasn't for you. To really understand just how much shit goes on in this game and how much you'll have to learn, this game actually gives you a tutorial night where you can mess around with everything in the building for as long as you want, because just throwing you into the game would 100% be too overwhelming. Next Week at Freddy's doesn't have any phone calls, nobody to help you and to explain to you what to do. Except there kind of is. This is Comcat. Get used to seeing him a lot. His first major role is in the tutorial night, where he will teach you how to use the computers and teach you the mechanics of each important camera in the game, which, by the way, there is a fuck ton of them. So strap in and get ready because it's about to get insane. I'll explain the important mechanics as they become relevant, so let's start with how Comcat works, because yes, of course, he himself acts as a threat. While Comcat himself can't kill you, he can be the most annoying character on the face of the earth when he wants to be. You can click on his icon on your taskbar to make him appear. There are a few phrases he will say when you do this, and occasionally a phrase will prompt you to respond to it. While you're talking with Comcat, you won't be able to interact with anything else on the computer. This includes your cameras, but to be honest, everything else on the computer isn't useful from a gameplay standpoint. If you don't periodically check on Comcat this way, he will take speaking with you into his own hands and appear on the screen whenever he wants. He's pretty much just Bonzi Buddy, except he doesn't steal your private data. When Comcat chooses to appear on his own, the conversation you'll have with him will be much longer than if you initiated the conversation yourself. And since you can't control anything until Comcat leaves, it's in your best interest to occasionally check up on him. Two characters become active on night 1, Bonnie and Chica. But before we talk about their mechanics, I want to take a moment to really appreciate how amazing this game looks. Every little detail looks incredible, especially the animatronics. If you look very closely, you'll be able to see the fuzz from the fabric on the robots. It's honestly some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So much attention to detail, it's incredible. But now we can talk about how Bonnie and Chica work. And trust me, these guys do way more than what they do in the official games. Like, take every mechanic that each of them does from every official game and merge them together, and I bet you that they will still do more in this game. I told you it was overwhelming, so let's get into it. Let's start with Bonnie, since he's usually the baseline, basic FNAF character. The character that should be simple to understand and should pave the way for more interesting mechanics to form off of it in later animatronics. How much could he possibly do? Well, a fuck ton. Like, a shitload. Bonnie's a whole fucking FNAF game by himself, I can't even lie. Bonnie starts on stage. You might be wondering why I'm not just saying what I usually say.
Oh, he walks around the building and eventually makes his way to your office.
Well, because he's not that simple this time around, so tracking his movements is actually important. Bonnie has 4 possible attack methods. I'm sorry, 4? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. And Bonnie is supposed to be the simplest character? I'm mortified of what is yet to come. Well, calm down, buddy. Let's go over each possible route that Bonnie can take, starting with the most basic one, heading to your office. This one is simple. Bonnie will walk to your office, appear in your window for a while, and eventually walk into the doorway where you can really see how fucking hulkingly terrifying these robots are. I know that FNAF 1 animatronics are like 6'9" or something like that canonically, but no FNAF game has really shown that off in a way that is meaningful. Seeing the animatronics in the doors in this game is actually kind of scary. Obviously, just close the door and you'll be a-okay. However, do keep in mind that the animatronics in this game like to sit at the door for approximately 12 years, so that's fun. Bonnie's next means of making your life miserable is through attacking the compressor room. What the fuck is the compressor room? Well, now is the time we get to start talking about the control panel, and where this game really starts to become an overwhelming headache. The compressor is a large machine inside of the building. The compressor is what allows the doors all throughout the building to be closed, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, it compresses the air that allows the pistons of the door to work properly. I think. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. If any engineers are watching, explain how wrong I am about compression and pistons or whatever the fuck in the comments. Thanks. Bonnie will try to enter this compressor room through the hallway camera right before your office. You will have to use the control panel behind you to remotely close off the door to the compressor room before Bonnie gets the chance to enter. However, it's moments like these where I need to bring up an issue I was never able to figure out myself.
Since this game is made in a 3D environment, unlike the Click Team FNAF games, it gives a lot more room for the characters to move around. So it's very common that you'll be able to see characters in multiple places on the same camera. When it comes to doors like the compressor room, telling exactly where the animatronic's next move is going to be is borderline impossible. Sometimes it's obvious and the character will be standing right next to the door facing it. However, sometimes they'll be miles upon miles away from the fucking door, yet still have their next movement opportunity be into said door. You're not near the door, you're fine. Oh, Chica, you dick. So this leads to you closing doors whenever you see a character on the camera, which a lot of the times the character was never going to enter in the first place, therefore just wasting a fuck ton of power for no reason. If Bonnie manages to get into the compressor room, he'll slap his fat crack all over it and break it, which will require you to reboot your compressor. With your compressor off, you obviously won't be able to shut any of the doors throughout the building. This includes the doors you can close on the cameras. Bonnie's next attack strategy is the camera connections in the server room. This works exactly the same as the compressor room in theory. You can close the door to the server room when an animatronic is close, using the control panel behind you. If Bonnie manages to get inside the server room, he'll drop his big fat stupid balls all over the control panel and fuck up your camera connections, making you unable to see any of the cameras. You will then have to manually reboot them, which along with the compressor reboot takes a very long time. However, I'd argue that not being able to see your cameras affects the gameplay loop a lot more often. Where a lot of FNAF games fail to make the cameras super useful, Next Week at Freddy's succeeds greatly at making the cameras more important than any other tool at your disposal. The final attack strategy that Bonnie can have is activating Foxy, which brings up Foxy altogether. There are actually two different versions of Foxy in this game, the normal one and the scrapped one in the back room. We'll talk about the back room one later. For now, let's focus on the main Foxy. By himself, Foxy is incapable of doing anything and will never attack you, only through the assistance of Bonnie and two other animatronics that can activate him. Bonnie has the chance to enter Pirate's Cove and attempt to activate Foxy. Once Bonnie enters, you won't have a super long time to stop him before Foxy comes for that ass.
Whoa, no. Fucking dick!
My whole asshole just fell off. It did, just dropped right out. Just dropped, just plop, just fell right out of my ass. Using the special flashlight on the Pirate's Cove camera, you can scare away any unwanted animatronics. However, using this light does temporarily cause higher power usage from everything that uses power. For what reason? I have no fucking idea. I guess God just hates me. If you don't scare Bonnie away fast enough, Foxy will activate and run to your door. If you don't close it fast enough, he'll place his hook into your rectum, and I'm sure you can imagine how unpleasant that would be. If you do close the door on time, just like FNAF 1, he'll take away some of your power. Except unlike FNAF 1, the max he can take isn't 6, instead being like fucking 15% power just disappears out of existence. So really make sure you're watching that Pirate's Cove camera. Whew. There, a couple of pages into the script, and I'm finally done talking about the very first character in this game. Isn't that awesome? Now it's time to talk about Chica. Chica also has 4 different ways to attack you. Isn't that just fucking awesome? Luckily for us, 3 of the mechanics are identical to Bonnie. Obviously, Chica can attack your right door. She can also try to fuck up your cameras using the server room, and she's one of the other characters that will attempt to activate Foxy. However, I have noticed that it seems like Bonnie will attempt to a lot more frequently. However, that may also just be because Bonnie's AI value is typically always higher than Chica's is. The new mechanic that Chica adds is pretty similar to Bonnie's compressor attack, except Chica will attempt to attack your power grid. When you see her near the power grid door, you can obviously close it using the control panel behind you. If she manages to get into the power grid room, she will literally just shut off the power to the entire building, and you'll have to reboot it, which takes quite a long time. The power being turned off is undoubtedly the most dreadful situation you can be in. Not only does it require you to wait a billion years for your power to turn back on, but the power being turned off also turns off the compressor, meaning that after you wait forever for the power to turn back on, you then have to wait forever again for the compressor to turn back on. And on top of that, at the start of each night, you have to boot up the cameras, which takes time in and of itself. So of course, when the power is cut, you'll have to reboot the computer as well. Oh yeah,
And don't forget to be checking on Comcat frequently or he'll waste even more of your time. Geez, Dexter, this sounds pretty complicated, and we haven't even introduced everyone yet? Exactly. We still have a lot more to talk about. But if you want to feel a little bit better, the lower the character's AI, the less likely they are to make the most effective choices, meaning that on night 1, most of the movement will be Bonnie and Chica trying to disable your cameras. I personally didn't have them come to my doors on night 1 at all. Night 2 doesn't add anything new, it just increases the AI of Bonnie and Chica, so chances are you're going to be seeing at least one of them at your door on this night. However, I will be taking this time to talk about what I feel is this game's biggest flaw: time. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking super fucking long. However long you think they are, they're longer. Most typical FNAF games now will have a real life second equal 1 in-game minute, meaning that most nights in FNAF games are 6 minutes long. I feel this is a good length for a night, just dividing the in-world night time in minutes by 10. However, Next Week at Freddy's thought it'd be really funny and a little bit quirky to make each in-game minute 2 seconds in real life, meaning that each night in Next Week at Freddy's is a whopping 12 fucking minutes long. Are we serious? I guess I get it. The animatronics move pretty slowly to give you time to properly search for them on the cameras. But 12 minutes? I think I'd rather swallow a grenade and die, thank you. Like, I still beat the whole game. But god damn, losing when you're 11 minutes into a night will really make you question how violent of a person you actually are. Now, something interesting happens after beating night 2. We get thrown into what this game calls nightmare segments. Think of them like this game's version of a post-night minigame, except this time there's actually way more to do and it isn't mind-numbingly boring. Well, okay, the first one is. During this nightmare segment, we wake up in the back room of the restaurant. Is this actually happening or is this a nightmare? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm leaning more towards it being a nightmare just because of the name of the segment. We wake up on the floor and notice that the door is closed and we're stuck inside. We say that someone will surely come to find us, and without even standing up, the nightmare ends. Again, I told you the first one was boring, but they will only get more and more interesting from here, trust me. Moving on to night 3, once again, nothing new is added. The AI of Bonnie and Chica are just increased. But you really have to think, with how many different ways each of them can attack you, and how overwhelming the game's system as a whole is, this is still enough to make each night feel significantly more difficult than the last. Moving on to the second nightmare segment, we're finally able to stand up and really get a good look at our surroundings. The room is very small and very cramped, which would give any normal person a feeling of claustrophobia. We pick up a flashlight that barely does a goddamn thing and start to explore for an exit. It's at this point where I noticed that these nightmare sections would be my least favorite part of the game because of the horrendous mix of both motion blur and horrific head bobbing. But that's really besides the point. We eventually notice a door and recognize that it's just like the one in the office. However, the lever that controls the door is missing. We find it on a desk, but before we can attach it to escape, a throbbing pain comes to our head and we pass out. Night 4 is where we get to talk about the new and final threat this game has to offer. But don't let that fool you, because this threat is a big one. A big stinker. A poopy head for all of you elementary schoolers out there who really shouldn't be watching my channel. Night 4 introduces Freddy, and let me tell you, he's got all the tricks up his sleeve, and he's ready to flatten you like a pancake and fold you like an omelet. Freddy can literally do everything, and he moves faster than the other animatronics, so needless to say, he's going to be the one that grabs a clump of your rump and doesn't let go like a snapping turtle. Not only can Freddy take all 4 of the paths that Bonnie and Chica can take, those being fucking the compressor room, activating Foxy, killing the power, and disconnecting your cameras, he can also attack either of your doors, and there's also something else unique to him that he can do. Remember how I told you that there are 2 Foxies in this game? Yeah, Freddy fucks around with the other one. Scrapped Foxy is present in the back room. The only other character who will enter this room is Freddy. And be careful, because sometimes seeing Freddy on this camera can be pretty difficult, as he has the habit of hiding in the shadows. When you see Freddy in the back room, shut the door to Scrapped Foxy's room using the control panel behind you. If Freddy manages to get inside, he will send Scrapped Foxy to your office. However, unlike normal Foxy, Scrapped Foxy can attack either of your doors. I personally have no idea how much power he takes away when he pounds on your door, as I'm a fucking god gamer and never had to deal with him.
It is a mistake I will not make again. Uh-oh. Okay, let's talk about this. I had that fucking door closed when Freddy was in there. Which, by the way, you can see my epic FNAF skills on my second channel, Dexter Black. But once Scrapped Foxy pounds on your door, he'll break in the hallway where he won't reactivate for the rest of the night. And from here, nothing else actually gets added to the night sections. Each night just gets more and more difficult. Now sure, there aren't a lot of threats that can happen at the same time, but the reason why this game is so overwhelming is because of how much you have to remember. You have to know where all the characters are. You have to understand how each mechanic works, and you have to be able to control your nerves during all of this for 12 minutes straight and barely pass each night due to almost running out of power because these animatronics camp more than a fat Call of Duty player. Oh, hi, Chica. My luck is gargantuan right now. Moving on to the third nightmare segment, this game really shows how much of a dickhead it can really be. We wake back up and are finally able to put the lever on the door, only to find out that the door isn't even getting power, which doesn't make sense because we know from the night sections that if there's no power, the door opens, but what the fuck ever, I'm pretty sure this is literally just a nightmare. Turning around, we notice that the once cramped room is now larger, as a wall that was previously present has disappeared, now leading into a large storage area. With our worthless flashlight in hand, we venture into the dark room, following a wire on the ceiling that will hopefully lead to something to turn the power on. After some wandering, we find a breaker box, but it's locked and we're unable to get into it. We figure a key must be around the maze of a storage area somewhere, so we set out to find it. Guys, I hated this section so fucking much. I mentioned earlier I have motion sickness, and this gameplay is some of the most nauseating shit I've ever seen in my life. During my playthrough, which you can watch over on my second channel, Dexter Black, I spent a pretty decent amount of time looking for this key, and I couldn't find it. With my head pounding and really just wanting to wrap up the video, I looked up a walkthrough just to see where it was. I went to the location where the guy in the walkthrough found it, shout out to Indie Fuel by the way, only to find that the key wasn't there. The key spawns in a random location, so you can't look up where it is. I now had to spend who the fuck knows how long wandering around with the feeling that my head was about to implode looking for a key the size of your ball sack. However, eventually I did find it and I used it to unlock the breaker, only to find out that all we unlocked was another fucking lock. God damn it! Are you serious? This is not a thing that has ever existed. Now we have to find a 4-digit code in this fucking hellhole. This is by far the worst nightmare segment in the entire game. It is ruthless. At first I thought, oh, let's just try the classics. You know, 1987, 1983, but nothing worked. So I assumed that I had to go find the numbers somewhere. I checked the walkthrough, and of course, the code is randomized. Amazing. After once again, who fucking knows how long, I wander back to the breaker, only for the game to then tell me that I should listen for clicks on the correct numbers. Are you fucking me right now? Why did you not tell me that when I was guessing codes before? Why did you wait so fucking long to come up with that? This game hates me. This game is pulling my hair and just plowing the shit out of me like I'm a dirty little slut. But whatever. We input the code and flip the breaker switch, and as we're walking back to the door to try and open it, we once again pass out. I guess that's what happened when you're just fucked for hours upon hours at a time. You get so tired you just pass out. Fantastic. As I've said, Night 5 doesn't add anything new, so we can just jump right back into the hellhole that is these nightmare segments, where the same 15-second ambience loops forever right in my fucking ear when I already have a goddamn headache. Once again, we wake up and walk back to the door to see if we can open it. We flip the switch, and for fuck's sake, something's wrong with the compressor, so we have to go try and find something else. Now, I'm not sure if this next part was just a me thing, so for anyone else who has played this game, let me know if this next part happened to you. We're told literally nothing of importance. The only thing our character states is something along the lines of, "What am I going to do now?" And that's all we're left with. So my first thought is something along the lines of, oh, I just need to look for another who the fuck knows what. So I did just that. I wandered around the storage area looking for something I hadn't seen before. Who can even say how long I was wandering around before I eventually found what I was supposed to find? Directly next to the original room that we were in at the beginning of the nightmare segments, another wall miraculously disappeared, and that's where we were supposed to go. That wouldn't even be a huge problem if I could fucking see anything at all, but it's so fucking dark. I can't see my hands. It's so dark I can't even think, which I know doesn't make sense, but fuck it, here we are. Entering this new room, we see a bunch of pipes on the wall. We know the power is on, but figure that there's a generator somewhere that hasn't been turned on, because it wouldn't be a horror game if you didn't have to turn on a generator at some point, now would it? After wandering down a hallway that probably took me 20 minutes to find because I couldn't see a fucking thing, we stumble into the room where the generator is. We power it on and promptly pass out once more because of how loud it is. I'm sure you could guess, nothing new of note in night 6, just really fucking hard. In the final nightmare segment, we wake up once more. We walk back to the pipes only to find that a bunch of gas, or air, whatever the fuck, is leaking out of them. So we have to find something to close the valves, which means I get to play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After a long time searching, we find a valve. We then have to take the valve back over to the pipes and figure out which of the billion of them to close off. At first I thought, let's follow the pipe that leads to the door we're trying to open. So after following the completely unconventional and nonsensical twists and turns of the pipes, I found the one that went to the door. Placing the valve in that pipe, I tightened it and it caused the valve to shoot out at Mach 1000 and land who the fuck knows where. So you know what we get to do now? Play another game of walk around aimlessly with a headache looking for a randomly generated tiny object when I can't see a fucking thing. After finding it lying on the fucking ground, I decided fuck it, I'm just gonna brute force this one. And to my luck, the pipe I chose to put the valve in next just so happened to be the correct one, thank God. Finally, we head back over to the door and try to open it one final time, and finally it opens. We see a newspaper with some audio from a newscast playing in the background, explaining that an employee at Freddy Fazbear's burned down the building after reporting that the animatronic stalked him during the night. This employee is who I can only assume to be us. We were placed into a psychiatric hospital because everyone just assumed we were cuckoo bananas. We also find out that the owner of the restaurant, who in this game is called Jacob Fazler, retarded name, I should mention, has been arrested for killing several children, probably in reference to the typical FNAF missing children's incident. And of course, the co-owner, Marcus Reed, killed his daughter. Why did this game choose to give them different names instead of calling them William and Henry? I'm not totally sure. But with that, the main game of next week at Freddy's comes to a close. But this game's lore goes a lot deeper than what we've seen. I mean, seriously, the backstory of this game takes up an overwhelming majority of this game's own Wikipedia page. Throughout this game, you're able to look through the files on the computer while also doing things like checking the cameras. It's through these files where you can learn the most overwhelming bullshit you've ever been up against in your entire life. Alright, so let's break down the absolute shit show that is this game's retelling of the original FNAF lore. As I understand it, and with significant help from the wonderful writing of City, the creator of the FNAF fan game wiki. Seriously, I couldn't do this shit without you. No idea how you had it in you to write all this, but here's my shitty retelling. Next Week at Freddy's kicks off with Jacob Fazler and Marcus Reed, the two guys behind Fazbear Enterprises. They started cooking up the idea in the late 80s, and by October of 1989, they have brought the building that would become Freddy Fazbear's Pizza family restaurant. Jacob even logs all of his progress on the same computer in the office you used during the game, talking about buying the stage, wiring the rooms, and bragging about getting pneumotronics to build the animatronics. He also casts the voices, Adam Burton as Freddy, Rick Ellis as Foxy, and Davey and Suzanne Paul for Bonnie and Chica. By 1990, the place is open, business is booming, Jacob marries Nancy, she helps out in the studio, and soon they're running 3 locations. Everything looks fine, but Marcus slowly drifts away from the company, skipping meetings and distancing himself. In 1995, Jacob installs the infamous control panel in the office. You know, the fucking NASA dashboard of switches that's basically the whole reason this game is overwhelming in the first place. Then, life falls apart. Nancy dies, and that's never explained, and Jacob is left raising their daughter Lara on his own. Lara grows up around the restaurant but loses interest in it, and Marcus cashes out of the company entirely. Jump to 1999. Jacob gets a shiny $12 million offer from Sunbird Hotel Corporation to expand, and for the first time in years, he's motivated again. But in 2001, Marcus storms back demanding his old share.
Jacob tells him, "Too bad, fucker, the deal's already done," and Marcus has a meltdown. He's literally dragged out by Adam Burton, Freddy's voice actor, and Marcus files a lawsuit, but the outcome is never revealed. And then tragedy hits. In June 2001, Lara is found dead in the storage room of Freddy's. 3 days later, Sunbird pulls their deal. Jacob's later logs get darker. He writes about hearing Lara's cries and feeling like she's watching him, angry. By 2002, he admits he's, quote, made a mistake. That mistake? Involvement in the deaths of 3 children. Not long after, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica start moving in disturbingly lifelike ways, which, yeah, the model viewer pretty much confirms are the spirits of those 3 kids. Meanwhile, the employee chat logs on that same office computer show the slow collapse of the place. Staff complain about the animatronics walking around on their own, about creepy suits left lying around, about Jacob drinking and acting strange after Lara's death. Scrap Foxy briefly gets mentioned as this janky earlier version of Foxy. There's even a memo from Jacob banning guest mode after a balloon incident, and literally bolting the animatronics to the stage to avoid lawsuits. And as far as I'm aware, that's all Next Week at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think it's one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed from a gameplay standpoint. The game looks gorgeous, it functions really well, and it found a way to make literally every single mechanic useful, which is something a lot of FNAF games just don't seem to be able to do. I would highly recommend you play this game and give it a try. You will not regret it.
When you think of the best FNAF games, what games do you think of? What are your top 5 in terms of quality alone? I'm willing to bet that a lot of people share some of the same entries, and I'm willing to bet that the game we'll be talking about today is at the top of some of your lists, because it's definitely at the top of mine. The Glitched Attraction is a FNAF fan game developed by 2 18-year-old developers alone. The reason I mention their age is because of how impressive this game really is, and how impressive it is that only 2 brand new adults managed to design it themselves. When I first learned how old these guys were, I was shocked. The Glitched Attraction is one of the best FNAF games I've ever played. I know a few of you watch my content to get suggestions for FNAF games to play, and for those of you that do not pass this one up. It is one of the most high-quality experiences of all time. Let's not waste any more time and hop into the Glitched Attraction, FNAF's most high-quality FNAF game ever made. Our game begins with us getting a text from a friend asking us to come check out the new Fazbear escape room attraction, and they tell us to bring all of our things along with us, a request that is definitely weird, but since when has weird ever meant bad in a FNAF game before, am I right? So we do just that, pack up all of our things and set out. You heard it here first, the Glitched Attraction is seriously a Five Nights at Freddy's escape room, a concept that sounded so cool I couldn't not check this game out, and I'm glad I did. We arrive at the attraction and 2 helper bots explain what's going to happen, and then we have to give over everything we have. Why the fuck did we bring everything we own if we're just going to give it to some random robots? This is pretty fishy smelling, and I should know because I haven't showered in 8 weeks. With the general rules explained, we continue onto the first section of the escape room as chipper as we can be. We're kicking our feet and heel clicking and shit, we're so giddy. Not knowing what we're getting ourselves into, we can dive into the first room of the Glitched Attraction. The first room has us in a room similar in style to the bedroom from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This room, being the first, isn't very difficult, but let me go over the 4 threats you can find in this room. While you're trying to think, focus, and not be a fuck-up, Nightmare Balloon Boy will be sitting on a chair, because his fat ass wouldn't ever dream of helping anyone, but would instead prefer to sit there and be pointless. But sometimes, he gets a little antsy. You can tell when he's like this because he will visibly seize in his chair until you shine your flashlight at him. It's weird that doing this causes his seizure to stop though, because when I quickly shined a flashlight in my epileptic friend's eyes, he went comatose on the ground and started foaming at the mouth. But to each their own, I guess. If you don't aid in Balloon Boy's assisted suicide, he will jump off the chair and kill you. Something interesting I noted is that Balloon Boy actually makes no noise when he shakes, or even when he jumps off of his chair, leading to a majority of his jump scares feeling really awkward. I get why he doesn't make any noise, because it'd be way too easy to not lose track of him, but just something I thought I'd bring up. You'll realize there's a giant window in this room as well, which lets you see outside. Occasionally, you'll be able to see Nightmare Fredbear stalking you from between the trees. Little does he know that his eyes are actually signal beams as bright as those stupid fucking white LEDs that are now being put onto vehicles, so that when I'm driving at night, everybody's headlights look like they have their fucking brights on. So when I flash my brights at them indicating to turn theirs down, then they actually turn their brights on, which simulate what I can only imagine to be the lights of God. And then I feel like an asshole because I just flashed a guy who didn't have their brights on. Sorry to go off on a tangent like that. I just really had to get my frustration about LEDs on cars out of the way, and I really didn't have a good outlet to do so. Anyways, you'll see Fredbear slowly inch closer to your window throughout the challenge, and when he gets super close, you'll have to close the curtains until you hear him laugh, signaling to you that he's gone away, and then you can reopen the curtains. Why on earth do you not just choose to keep the curtains closed for the whole time then? I have no idea. It's not like we need the moonlight to see. The bots at the beginning gave us a fucking flashlight, but whatever, I guess. Speaking of your flashlight, little tiny stupid insignificant Freddles will periodically appear around your room. They make the same noise as they do in FNAF 4, so hearing them shouldn't be a problem, especially considering how god-awful annoying they sound. Shine your flashlight at them and bada bing bada boom, they go away. But if you let 3 stay in your room and assault your eardrums for too long, 2 of them will grab either one of your butt cheeks as the third dives headfirst into your rectum, which some of you sick fucks may find pleasing, but I for one do not. The final threat you have to worry about is Night Marionette. If you somehow, by some miracle, haven't noticed in the footage I've been showing on screen so far, there is a giant hole busted into the wall of the room, which is very poorly boarded up. Why is it boarded up? I hear you asking? Oh yeah, forgot to mention, it's only because, Satan is in there, with enough tentacles to make hentai for the next 9,000 years. But, putting that thought aside, Night Marionette will occasionally give a sound cue to let you know she's there. If you look at the hole, you'll be able to see those sex toys, tentacles, creeping out. At this point, you'll need to make a mad dash to the Golden Freddy suit, which is conveniently placed in the room with you, and hide inside of it. Once you do so for long enough, Night Marionette will leave. Now, hold on. I'm not done talking about this stupid fucking Golden Freddy costume yet. I have some complaining to do, if you could imagine. This Golden Freddy suit takes about, 2 fucking decades to put on. I'm not kidding. You will feel like this game is broken or has paused as you are putting this fucking thing on. But if that wasn't enough, taking it off is somehow even worse. Rather than just exiting the costume, instead, the game thought it would be a great idea to have you teleport out of the costume, where you think you'd be able to continue moving around and interacting with things. But no, that'd be too convenient. Instead, once you teleport out of the costume, you have to just stand there for about 4 seconds doing absolutely nothing. No moving, no using your flashlight, just standing there like a dunce as time still passes around you. While in the Golden Freddy costume, did you happen to notice that Balloon Boy was tweaking out? Okay, cool. Night Marionette's gone. Let's quickly exit the costume and flash Balloon Boy. Oh wait! Instead of flashing Balloon Boy, i.e. saving your own life, let's instead stand there like we have an iron deficiency for 5 fucking minutes as Balloon Boy twerks his fat jiggly ass all over his goddamn chair. I really needed to get that out of my system. Surely I won't have to complain for the rest of the video now, right? Anyways, how do we actually beat this room's challenge? Good question. You'll notice on the wall there's a picture of Freddy broken up into pieces, with each piece facing a different direction. You can turn each piece in order to make the picture look normal again, but you'll notice that one of the pieces is missing. On the dresser, you'll see the FNAF 4 box that Scott Cawthon wiped his ass with. Of course, it has 2 locks. You can find one of the keys to the locks in a drawer on the dresser, and the other key in the drawer of your nightstand. Using both of these keys to unlock the locks on the box, bars, opens it, revealing the last piece of the Freddy puzzle. You can take that piece and put it back in place to finish the puzzle, revealing a 6-digit code. Quick tip, this number is randomized every time you play it, so no fast speedrunning for you, sucker. Going back to the nightstand, you can open a door to reveal a safe. You punch that 6-digit code into the safe, open it, and find a hammer. You can then use this hammer to take the nails off the wooden boards covering the closet door, then open the closet door and escape the bedroom. Do keep in mind that as you are trying to do this, you are getting fucked from all angles by about 179 different pieces of fuck. But overall, I think this is by far the easiest room to complete, which is probably how it should be given the fact that we have a lot more rooms to go through. Speaking of, let's get to the next one. The next room is much larger than the previous. This time there are only 3 threats: Toy Chica, Mangle, and the Cupcake. This room is basically a big circle. Chica will walk around the circle patrolling for you. If you get in her line of sight, she will start to chase you. If she catches you, she will throw the meanest right hook I've ever seen since Muzi. You can hide in any of the several lockers lining the walls, but be aware that not all lockers can open. And if you want to know something super awesome, which lockers open are randomized each time you play. Meaning if you lose a run, some of the lockers you hid in before probably will be locked this time. Isn't that awesome? The Cupcake will also patrol around, but he is much less important. He himself can't end your run, but if you're not watching him and accidentally step on him, he will squeak, causing Chica to be alerted to your exact location. For me personally, I hate this type of mechanics in games. I want to note, I don't think they're bad mechanics, I just don't like them. When there's a puzzle, I would like to be able to focus on the puzzle without having to worry about being chased at the same time. It also doesn't help that I don't handle being chased very well in any game, period. But it definitely doesn't help when I'm trying to focus on solving a puzzle on top of that. Just a me thing. But if that wasn't enough for my poor heart to handle, we have Mangle tacked on top of that. Mangle is hiding in the ceiling throughout the challenge. Occasionally, you will hear vent noises. When you do, that's when you know Mangle is about to drop down on yo ass. She has 2 possible drop locations. If you hear the vent noises on a side of the room that you're not on, you can safely ignore her as long as you don't then move to the side she's on. But if you hear her on a side of the room that you are on, you have 2 options. You can either A, move to the other side of the room, which might be a problem if Chica is over there, or B, hide in a locker. If you don't hide and Mangle happens to see you when she drops down, she will start to chase you. And unlike Chica, when Mangle chases you, there's no way to make her stop. At that point, even hiding in a locker won't be enough to be able to protect your cheeks. So, about the puzzle I was bitching about earlier. You'll notice a large door locked via a pin. The pin is 6 digits long and consists of 6 different symbols. Around the dark room, you'll have to find sticky notes on the walls that correlate each symbol to a number, which will give you the code order needed to unlock the door. If you couldn't have guessed, yes, this is also randomized each time you play. Simply find all the notes, type in the code, and you're done. Come on, you didn't really fall for that, did you? That was way too easy. This is a FNAF game, remember? And according to the FNAF game dev rules, difficulty equals quality. So let's make this as hard as possible. After opening up the door and flipping 4 switches to turn the power to the room on, a whole new world of fuck opens up to us, including a brand new threat, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy sits inside of a music box, which I find weird because the marionette is literally in this room. I don't know why they didn't just use her for this mechanic, but whatever. Freddy's music box will slowly wind down, and if you don't keep it wound up, he will right hook, shatter the glass, hop out, and chase you. Just like Mangle, there's no hiding. If you hide inside of a locker, Freddy will stand outside of it and wait for you to come out. And when you do, you guessed it, he eats your ass. But because the devs of this game hate their players, if you wind Freddy's music box up too much, he will also shatter the glass and then shatter your sphincter. Cool. As if this wasn't hard enough for poor old Dexter to handle. What do we have to do now? Well, inside of the room you opened, there's some shit on the wall and we need to find some gears to make the contraption work. Again, you will just walk around the room and find all the needed gears and put them back in their place. Once you do, a door on the opposite side of the room will open, and you'll have to make a sprint of fate over to it. And then finally, the room is complete. This room isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I actually really like the concept of adding another threat halfway through. I just personally hate it for reasons stated earlier, but that's just a skill issue on my part. Moving on. Do you like complex things? Well boy, do I have a treat for you. The third room challenge is a nightmare. Let's waste no time and do a Tolarian Community College level threat assessment. This room has 4 threats: Springtrap, Dreadbear, Phantom Foxy, and Phantom Balloon Boy. Phantom Balloon Boy is simple, so let's cover him first. He works just as he does in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He can randomly appear on any of the cameras. If you look at him on the camera for too long, he will jump scare you and cause a video error. Except the video error in this game just means that the camera he jump scared you on can never be used again for the rest of the run, which I promise you is a very bad thing, and the reason will be revealed later. Phantom Foxy can appear in any of the 2 doors connecting to your office. If you look at him for too long, he will charge at you and jump scare you, causing a level of hallucinations to appear. If too many levels of hallucinations appear at once, it's game over. Now, let's talk about the real threats of this night. Springtrap and Dreadbear. Dreadbear can be seen on the cameras and will attack either one of your doors. Do note that you can close these doors and they each have their own power supply. But Dreadbear is unaffected by the doors and will break them down if they're in his way. You'll have to watch the cameras to see which door he will be attacking, and when you see him charging towards one, you will have to hide under the desk on the opposite side of the desk to where he is coming from in order to stay out of his line of sight when he enters your office. Eventually, he will leave and you'll be safe to come back out. Springtrap is a goofy little thing, to say the least. Springtrap will climb through any of 3 vents, which you can see on the cameras. 2 vents bring him to your respective office doors, and the 3rd leads to the vent that is directly above you. If you see Springtrap climbing through a door vent, you will have to simply close the door to the side he's going towards. If you see him climbing through a vent that brings him to the top of your office, you'll need to quickly turn off the power to the office and hide under your desk. He'll drop down, and once he can't see you because the lights are off, he will leave. You got all that down? Good. Because we have a whole load more of fuck to talk about next. That being, how do we escape this room? Well, the goal is to open a tiny vent near the ground beneath the TV screen. To start, you'll want to check near the desk to look for a code. It's random every time, and where it appears next to the desk is also random every time, so have fun. Once you get the code, you head over to the TV screen and press developer mode, and then type in the code you found in your office. This lets you activate developer mode, which opens up a door on the wall revealing a token. Keep in mind, all of the threats are active at this time. Using the token, you pop that puppy into the big arcade machine in your office, which promptly starts up a game. That's right, while defending yourself from an onslaught of fuck, you will also have to play an entirely other game at the same time. The game in question, Save the Children, is really just a bunch of fetch quests. To start, you'll talk to Balloon Boy, who is fishing and says he needs some balloons. By the way, if you couldn't have guessed, all of the items that you'll be collecting in this minigame will be in a random location every time you play. Because God hates you. When you bring the balloons back to Balloon Boy, he will give you one of the fish he caught. Then you need to find Old Man Consequences and give him the fish, since the pond he's fishing in doesn't have any. Once you give him the fish, he gives you a lily pad for some fucking reason. Don't question it. We don't have time to question it because I neglected to mention there's a fire spreading through the building as you're escaping, and if you take too long, it will reach your office and kill you. No, I'm not joking. Oh, and again, keep in mind all of the threats I mentioned are still pulverizing your butthole. Once you have the lily pad, you'll take it back to Balloon Boy's pond and use it as a bridge to talk to this fucking robot thing. The robot says its watch is broken, so fuck you, go look for a clock. Once you find the clock and bring it back to the robot, he gives you a penguin, I think is what that thing is. Then you take the penguin over to Lolbit, who gives you a key to unlock a gate, which then leads you to an area where you need to unlock another gate. Yes, this minigame is still happening right now. You spelunk into a cave and talk to some dude who thinks the cave is too dark. You then have to leave the cave and go look for a torch, head all the way back and give the torch to him. He will then give you a key to unlock the other gate, and when you do, you'll exit the area leading to a William Afton cutscene where he goes sicko mode inside of his Springlock suit. And finally, you have to sit there and wait as the game reboots. Again, we're on a time crunch, so your butthole will probably be puckered at this point. Again, threats are still up the wazoo right now, so don't get comfortable. Once the system reboots, you'll get another 5-digit code which you can use to unlock a box on the office desk which reveals a key. You then use the key on a keyhole in the fucking wall for some reason, and at this point, no matter how much time you have left, the game will start to count down from 6. Once the fire reaches your office, the small vent I mentioned at the beginning of this room will finally open, and you'll be free to crawl through it, but not before Springtrap lunges out and grabs your ankle with lust in his eyes and shit. You quickly close the vent and decapitate that bitch, and finally, you complete the room. Holy shit, this room gave me a panic attack and made me shart my pants. Shall we begrudgingly move on to the next room? I think so. Let's keep this gravy train rolling. Do you enjoy having headaches? If you do, this next room is for you. Let's go over it together. I'll hold your hand. This room is made up of 2 hallways, 2 windows, and a bunch of screens, a small elevator, and a life-size 7-foot-tall circus baby animatronic. The goal of this room is to put baby back together, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first go over the threats this room has to offer. The first threat is Ballora. At times you will hear her music box begin to play. Depending on which side of the room you hear the music coming from, you'll need to go over to that side's hallway and press an electric shock button that will electrify the doorway, shocking Ballora and making her go away. If she gets in, I'm guessing you can figure out what happens next. Ballora is the easiest threat. What else is there? Well, the two other threats are Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy. Occasionally, you will hear a gurgling sound cue, letting you know something is wrong with either Foxy or Freddy. You will have to run over to the windows and turn on the light to their room to see where they are. Starting with Foxy, if you see him doing the thug shaker on stage, you just press his shock button, and he will go back to how he's supposed to be. Be careful though, if you shock him too many times for no reason, he'll eat your ass like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Freddy, on the other hand, is slightly different. His light button doesn't work. Similar to Sister Location, while looking at him, occasionally sparks will fly out of the wires in his room, briefly illuminating. In this small window of time, you'll be able to see where Freddy is located. He will slowly make his way towards the window, and if he gets too close, you guessed it, ass in his mouth, eating it like a cupcake. If you see Freddy getting too close for comfort, you press the tape symbol button, which will make Bon Bon tell Freddy to get the fuck back on stage. And he promptly will. Again, like Foxy, if you push the tape button too many times for no reason, it's time for the bite of 87 on your asshole. Now, back to putting Baby back together to complete the night. You'll notice that Baby is missing both arms and both legs. The first thing you'll need to do is find the Baby chip hidden on the desk somewhere and plug it into the monitor. For some reason, we don't plug it into a computer, but I guess that's not really important now, is it? Once the monitor comes on, we need to call for Baby's different pieces, starting with her arm. The general goal is to get each piece of her delivered and then fuse each of them to her body. Before I get to the fusing part of this process, let me bitch about the delivery process. So obviously, delivering the parts will take time, which isn't what we want because, as usual, we're on a timer here. And because of it, the devs thought it would be oh so funny to have some of the pieces come in broken. And once you put them on and try to fuse them, only then it will tell you it is broken and won't work. And you'll have to take the piece back off, return it, which also takes time, and then order and wait for another piece to be delivered. Why was this necessary, guys? What neuron fired off in your brain that made you think, how can I be Satan today? Anyways, let's talk about fusing, because this is really where the headache of this challenge comes into play. Starting with fusing the head, which for some reason wasn't already fused on, even though the challenge started with her head already being on her body. In order to fuse Baby's body parts back to her torso, you have to complete a small minigame. For her head, it's basically just Simon Says, but with numbers instead of colors. But don't worry, the devs weren't just being nice and thinking about colorblind people. We'll get to that in just a minute. This is by far the easiest and least time-consuming part to fuse, but if you mess up a pattern once, you'll have to completely restart the head fusing process. Let's move on to her arms. The minigame for both arms are the same. The goal of this minigame is to divert power from the left side of the screen to the right. You do this by turning a bunch of 90-degree lines and 180-degree lines in order to make a consistent path from left to right. This sounds easy, but holy fucking shit, knowing you're on a time crunch and dealing with 30 pounds of dick in your ass at the same time definitely doesn't make this a smooth process. Do that for both arms and you're on to legs, the part that makes people like me want to die. In order to fuse the legs, you have to play a color matching game. You will see two grids of colors, one grid where you can change the colors and on the other you cannot. You have to copy it. Let's get the big elephant out of the room. If you're colorblind or deficient like I am, this challenge is borderline impossible. I'm lucky enough to not be completely colorblind or I would never have beaten this in my entire life. But not only that, but the grid each time has a missing square, as I'm sure you've noticed, but I'm also sure you've noticed that missing square on your side and the missing square on the side you're supposed to copy are in different locations. That's because they rotated the fucking grid. Talk about a headache, am I right? Maybe I'm just brain dead when it comes to this, but trying to comprehend where each color should go when it's rotated was just not a fun experience at all. I'm not even going to lie to you. But once you finally finish fusing all of Baby's pieces back together, a voice will come over the speakers telling you that all of the animatronics have been deactivated, and that you should exit through the hall on your right. When you do, you'll be led to the sister location elevator. Getting inside, it will slowly descend and then stop. You'll hear something laughing at you for a while, and then the elevator will suddenly drop and you die. The end. Game over. Okay, not really. That's just the transition to the next room. Are you ready? Because I sure as fuck aren't. Why did we agree to come to this place? It makes no sense. How does this place even exist? I could have died a solid 276 times at this point, and we're not even done yet. Someone needs to get this place investigated by the FBI because this is some bullshit. What a waste of a Saturday, am I right? Anyways, let's move on. After laying on the floor for approximately 8 days, we finally wake up from the fallen elevator. We walk past a large window and see the characters we just went up against. After the events of the last room, these little tiny robot things apparently grabbed all of the characters to bring them to the scooping room. And this room is presumably that. While we look across the floor of once familiar corpses, the bane of my existence and the shit in my diaper emerges from the tangled mess of wires. Ennard. This guy is the single reason why it took me so long to make this video. Why it took me a month to beat this game. For most, it certainly wouldn't have taken this long, but for me, oh my lord, this next room will give me flashbacks like Charlie in the Trees for the next 5 decades, and possibly until I reach my grave. Remember the second room? How I mentioned I don't handle being chased very well? This room made me question if I would be able to continue making videos on this channel, or if I would have to jump ships to another genre to make review videos about. I'm not kidding, not even a little bit. I originally intended to beat this game on stream on Dexter Black, and you can still see my first stream about this game where I gave up on Room 2. Well, for the people who tuned into that stream, now I didn't give up. But you should also be grateful that I didn't stream this entire process because I spent tens of hours trying to beat this next room alone. Let me explain why. Room 5 is the epitome of everything I hate in a horror game. Literally all the way down to the last detail. I'll give you a warning right now. This is 100% a me problem and is totally my subjective opinion. So, the only threat in this room is Ennard. Thankfully, there aren't any more, but dear lord, Ennard is all it needs. In terms of where we are story-wise, the elevator crashing was definitely not intended to happen, as upon beginning this room, we don't get a monitor telling us what our goals are. This is cool as a passing thought, but it's not really cool when you stop to think that there is absolutely nothing to explain what it is I need to do to complete the challenge. Upon beginning, we're given a wind to power flashlight and some writing on the wall telling us to light up a solar panel using the flashlight. Now, I'm already going to pause real quick. We're being shown a new mechanic, the wind up flashlight and solar panel. Cool. Now tell me, do you suspect we need to light up solar panels ever again in this entire challenge? Or the entire game? I'm assuming you said yes, but you'd be completely wrong. No, there's not a single other solar panel in this entire game. So please, tell me, why the fuck were we shown this? Showing us the flashlight makes sense, but there were countless other ways to do it in a much better way than showing us another mechanic that is never used again. This is exactly like the gun in Muzi. But continuing, once we light the solar panel, a large door opens and the challenge truly begins. The overall goal of this challenge is probably the easiest we've seen so far. It's broken up into 5 distinct tasks. Step 1, find a crowbar. Step 2, use the crowbar to force open a drawer near Kyle's desk to get a keycard. Step 3, use Kyle's keycard to open a door, allowing you to turn a generator on that powers computer monitors throughout the room. Step 4, find all 3 computers and input 3 colored fuses into each. The fuses are conveniently placed in boxes right next to the computers, so I appreciate that. And step 5, go back to the generator and turn on the central power, which opens the door, allowing you to climb a ladder and beat the challenge. Sounds simple, right? Well, yes. It is simple, but now I need to talk about the problem. Ennard. Ennard will be patrolling the giant maze of a room the entire time you are performing these tasks. If he sees you, he will begin to chase you. If you get caught, you will lose all progress you've made throughout the challenge. Let me tell you another fact. Unlike every room in this game so far, this room ain't small. No, this room is very fucking large. I hate everything about life. Let me complain about some more stuff. If you are near Ennard, he will hear you and be alerted to you if you do the following. Wind up the flashlight. Makes sense. It's really loud. I can understand that one. If you run. Okay, yeah. I've seen that in other games before. Running is louder than walking is, and walking. That's right. If you move, period, while he is anywhere remotely close to you, he will hear you and start to chase you. What the fuck? And once he starts chasing you, there's only 2 ways to get him to stop. The devs must have been smoking crack and playing Dead by Daylight while they were designing this section, because one of the methods used to escape an Ennard chase is by knocking over wood pallets placed around the room. Quickly break the pallets and continue to chase you if you don't hop bottom out of there at light speed. What's the second way of escaping a chase? I hear you asking? Well, it's by stunning Ennard. How do you stun Ennard? I hear you asking again. That's a great question. I have no fucking idea. I'm not joking. I literally have no fucking clue on earth how, on God's green fuck, you're supposed to stun Ennard. How do I know you can stun him? Well, every time you die, which, judging by the fact it took me borderline a month to beat this challenge, I did quite frequently, you will get a tip on the loading screen. One of these tips tells you that stunning Ennard will give you more time to run away than knocking over a pallet will. So I know you can, but the game doesn't elaborate on how to do that as far as I'm aware. So to this day, I still have no idea how to stun Ennard. I don't know what the hell the game is talking about. I'm stumped. But I'm not even close to done talking about this section of the game. No. I spent a fucking month on this. I can dedicate a few pages of my script to it. You can sit down and listen. I don't care if this video ends up being an hour long. You see, there is a very large, steaming hot, glaring issue with this challenge in specific. Since it's technically not a part of the canonical attraction, there's no tip screen at the beginning. But with no tip screen, there's no telling anyone fuck about fuck. So, as I said, there are 3 computers around the level. Each computer has a box of fuses with differently colored patterns on them right next to them. Each computer requires 3 different fuses. How do you figure out which fuses go where? Well, at first I looked at the colors of the wires going into the computer. I thought, maybe this will give me a hint as to what I'm supposed to do. So I tried to grab the fuses out of the box, but I couldn't. So then I thought, oh, maybe these aren't the fuses, and the actual fuses are randomly placed around the map. So I went to look. I looked, and I looked, and I looked, but I never found any fuses. Eventually, I died for probably the 48,000th time to see a tip appear on my screen. You won't be able to pick up fuses until you turn on the monitors. You didn't think to tell me that? You didn't think that was important information to give out earlier? This is why we need the fucking tip screen, asshole. But fuck me, whatever, sure. So then I started trying to figure out how to turn the monitors on. I tried seeing if I could press the buttons on the monitors, but that didn't work, so then I decided to try and find something else to do. Eventually, I found a note next to a door mentioning that Kyle leaves a keycard in his desk to open said door. Okay, cool. Something to do has just fallen into my lap. Let's go find Kyle's desk. Luckily for me, desks are in the same location every time you play, so we don't have to worry about those being randomized. After looking for a very long time, because again, I don't handle being chased well at all, it's like I fucking lock up and start freezing. I don't know what's wrong with me, I just can't handle it. So, most of the gameplay boiled down to me moving incredibly slowly and taking way more time than I ever needed to complete this challenge. But that's how I personally had to do this if I wanted to play it myself, which is also why the footage you're watching right now isn't mine. Thank you, Kono and Indie Fuel. I eventually find Kyle's desk to then find another note from Kyle mentioning that you need a crowbar to be able to open his drawer with the keycard in it. Fuck me. So, after searching for another 100 years, I find the crowbar on a desk and use it to open the drawer to get the keycard. 400 hours and 2,000 deaths later, I use the keycard to open the door and find the generator inside. Flip the switch and boom, the computers are now on. Now, 5,000 deaths later, I finally get to the point where I can pick up the fuses and match the correct fuses to the ones shown on the screen. After 25,000 deaths, I managed to correctly match the fuses of all 3 computers. Keep in mind, every time I die, I have to completely restart this entire process, all the way back to shining the flashlight at the solar panel. I'm on the verge of death. So finally, I make it back to the generator to turn it on and finish this godforsaken challenge. And I do, expecting the door next to it to open. It doesn't. Come in real close for me. Come in real close. This fucking door needs a separate key that spawns randomly in the level. I'm going to clench my teeth together so hard that they shatter into a fine powder. This right here is what took me the longest. So finally, after 100,000 deaths, I finally get the key to the generator to unlock the door. Come in real close again for me, real close, one more time. Take a guess what's in this room. Is it the exit to let me move on to the next challenge? No, it's just fucking lore. I didn't know this
while I was playing. I don't watch videos about the games I play, so I had no idea what was behind this fucking door. I know that's 100% my fault, but dear God, when I tell you how fucking pissed I was when I finally figured out this after hours upon hours of attempts, I was fucking livid. I wish I was recording my attempts so I could show you my reaction. You wanna know what happened after a reasonable crash out in this room? Ennard fucking walked in and killed me, making me start from the beginning again. Once again, I wasn't recording. However, this exact same thing happened to Markiplier, so I'll show you footage of this happening to him instead.
Good. I was about to say, if that guy could have come in here, I would have been so mad. How could you ever get me in here?
The amount of vulgarities that emerged from my lungs at a speed of Mach 50 in that moment was astronomical. Enough to shake trees and shatter the sound barrier. I was fucking livid. But again, I know full well that this entire section, this entire 4 pages of my script is an experience that only I have had. Nobody else on Earth struggled with this challenge as much as I did. Nobody in history has ever spent a calendar month pouring attempts into this section of a game that should only take 20 minutes to complete. I know it's a skill issue, and a very hard skill issue at that, but I could not, under any circumstance, neglect to mention how bullshit of an experience I had. I hope you enjoyed this segment. I eventually found the door to the generator, opened it, and climbed up the ladder into the next challenge of this godforsaken fuck-ass game. From one anxiety attack to another, let's talk about room 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's how many threats we have to talk about in this level. Awesome segue, Dexter. Thanks, Dexter. The first threat we'll talk about is Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy can appear in one of 2 vents occasionally. When you hear or see him in one, you'll have to break your mouse and spam click a lever in the vent to blind him with a light more powerful than the sun. Every time you flash him, he gets slightly pushed back, which leads to you spending an infuriating amount of time spamming the fucking lever to make him go away. The next threat is Scrap Baby. As I'm sure you've noticed, we're locked inside a fenced area. On the outside of the fence is a forest, and occasionally you'll be able to see Baby limping her way out from between the trees towards your fence. When she gets to the fence, she'll hop that shit like an Olympic athlete and fuck your shit up. To stop her, you must go to this random screen in the wall and activate the repel system, which plays the most ear-piercing sound I've ever heard in my entire life. So I totally understand why that makes Baby go away. The final threat is Scrap Trap, who in my opinion is the stupidest looking FNAF character ever designed. You can see Scrap Trap sitting on a chair down a long hallway. You must watch him closely as he will slowly start to move until his head is eventually in an upright position. When it is, you must use the same screen you used for Baby, but instead close the door and use the call system to lure him to you. After waiting what will feel like an eternity, you will be able to hear him stand up from the chair and sprint like Usain Bolt towards the door, and pound on it like he's on speed. Then he will go back to the chair and you can open the door and turn off the call system. By the way, the call system is also the worst sound I've ever heard in my whole life. Thank you for asking. That may not sound all bad, but having to deal with all 3 of these fuckers and do the other bullshit we have to do, I promise it will become difficult to manage. So what is it we have to do? Well, the goal is to remove the chains from a fence gate so that we can open it. Simple enough. To start, you'll notice another screen different from the one used to defend yourself. On it, you'll find the opening minigame from 5 Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator. You will need to complete 4 levels of this game, which in and of itself isn't a hard challenge, but when the music is pretty loud, listening for the other characters can be a problem, especially when Scrap Trap doesn't make any noise until it's already too late. After beating this game, you will unlock a prize that we can't access at this moment, so we'll get back to it in a second. Afterwards, you'll need to look around your surroundings to find 2 pieces of paper with a number ranging from 1 to 3 on them, accompanied by a silhouette of a FNAF character. You can use these pieces of paper to input a code into this little toy thing. I don't know what this thing is if I'm being honest. You only need 2 pieces of the code because you can just brute force the last one. After getting the code correct, a key will emerge. Take that key and run down the hall and unlock a door to the right of Scrap Trap. This is personally where I think this level gets specifically hard, since we'll be spending most of our time in here now, meaning we won't be able to hear Scrap Trap and Molten Freddy, so if you forget to check on them, it's basically GG's. Inside this new room, we can finally obtain the prize we got from beating the Pizzeria Simulator minigame, a Faz coin. You'll notice a projector that's projecting a cut-up piece of paper on the wall. If you pull a lever on the same wall, this tiny little Freddy I can't remember the name of will try to read the projection. But he obviously won't be able to do so because it's only a small piece of a paper, you fucking idiot. Using the Faz coin, you can go back into Scraptrap's room and insert it into Rockstar Freddy's stomach, and then press 3 buttons on his body in an order listed on a piece of paper. This makes sense, by the way. This will cause his mouth to open, revealing the other pieces of paper you need. Slap those bitches on the projector and put them together like a puzzle, which, side note, is a pain in the ass for no reason. The controls are super janky. Slap the lever with your big Coke can penis, and have bitch Freddy read it. When he does, a door next to Rockstar Freddy will open with some bolt cutters inside. You can use these bolt cutters to cut the chains off of the fence and escape this level. This level might not seem as difficult as some of the other ones have, and while none of these levels are particularly difficult in terms of what you literally have to do, all of the levels, and this one specifically, build up so much stress and really test your nerve control. After jumping down some weird looking cellar door, we enter a new room with a computer in it. It shows an error that it detected human movement. Obviously, we just entered the room, of course. While reading through the files on the computer that detail a plan to revive someone through our corpse, another human detection error shows up on screen. Knowing that we haven't moved, we turn around and get our shit smacked up by Vanny and get knocked out. Fun fact, you can actually spot Vanny spying on you in almost every other level in the game if you're looking closely enough. Just something cool I thought I'd bring up. We wake up to Vanny dragging us into an unknown room. And rather than me explaining what happens next, I'd rather just show you. Afterwards, we walk through what appears to be memories of the Bite of 87 events, and the game comes to a close. So, from a lore perspective, we were lured to this attraction by Vanny. You may remember at the beginning of the game we got a text from a friend telling us how cool this attraction is, and in the secret lore room, which turns out to be Vanny's secret room, she has a whiteboard full of steps on how to use remnants. One of the steps involves sending a message to someone, seemingly to lure them in, and what do you know, we got a message to come here. Also in that secret room is a tape that can be watched going over how to extract remnant from people. So what the goal seemingly was, using my enormous brain of theorization, the plan was to lure us to the attraction, extract remnant from us in order to give power to William Afton, which is what we are seeing happen in the final cutscene. Case closed. I'm a genius. But as far as I'm aware, that's all the glitched attraction has to offer. Although this game put me through 4 brain aneurysms and a heart attack, I still think it is one of the most impressive FNAF fan games ever made. The amount of detail, skill, and effort put into this is only matched by the other kings of FNAF games, and that cannot go overlooked. I highly suggest you give this game a try, even if you think it's too hard. I don't think you'll regret it. I just really hope they add in a feature to get rid of the nauseating head bobbing because holy shit, I almost threw up multiple times playing this. In the last video, I asked you all what was the funniest experience you've ever had playing a FNAF game. And my favorite comment was this one by Saf the Dark Angel. Needless to say, we love irony here on the Dexter White channel. We're all too familiar with it. The question of this video is, which level of the glitched attraction is your favorite and why? With the question of the video being asked, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. See ya!